Greetings, friends. Welcome, everybody, and happy Wednesday. What's up, you? What's up, Mudbound Dragon, Space Hopper Copper, Mendel, Netscape Navigator, Jay? Woo! That didn't show up on stream for some reason. I don't know what's happening with my chat capture. It just gave up. Doesn't matter. To everyone in chat, lurkers and chatters alike, and VOD viewers as well, and everybody else I may have missed or forgotten about. Welcome to the return of Games Bond. We are, I was going to come up with an expression, and I almost landed on staring down the barrel of the gun, which I guess is appropriate. But we are indeed coming up on the last handful of games for this entire project. What's up, Father Axe Keeper? We are playing game number 48 tonight out of 50. And as is usually the case, this is a Java phone game. I expect it to be a pretty quick and small affair. I do not expect to have to dedicate more than a single stream to this, and in fact, this might even be a short stream. We'll see. Or, you know, I glanced at your spreadsheet earlier, and I think the last game we played, License to Drive, like an hour and change to complete. And it's like, well, if it takes an hour and change, yeah, that might fill up a 3 to 4 hour stream. That might be how it goes. What's up, Neo Freeman? But we'll see. We'll see. I have, as is, I guess, usual at this point, been a little bit stressed out, bouncing between a lot of different things going on. But I was determined to get the stream going, and I don't really have plans for like Halloween or doing a Halloween stream or anything, but I have tried to do Friday streams semi-recently, and the Mortal Kombat collection is coming out. I forget if it's today. I think it's tomorrow. And it's like, well, maybe we could do a stream with that. I don't know. It might be fun. We'll see. And I kind of want to usually try to avoid doing many streams like back-to-back. So it's like, you know what? Let's just get this happening today, and we'll get this little card game out of the way. What's up, Baltoth? Welcome. What was I gonna say? I forget. Something. Whatever. I'm a little discombobulated as usual. But that's fine. We're gonna be playing what appears to be a very simple game today. So I think even with limited mental faculties, we'll do all right. We'll do all right. We'll get more into the details of today's game in a moment.
What have you got there? A box?
We have certain other things, such as perhaps, for instance, box art reviews to handle first. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, so stream schedule continues to be a little bit sporadic, but I have done a little bit of planning work. I talked about this briefly on Discord, but in case you're not there, just a little update. During my birthday stream in late September, we reached a couple of subscriber goals, one of which was to organize a Prince of Persia port exploration marathon of sorts, whatever we want to call it. And this is something that I've been kind of meaning to do for literal years. We've played a bunch of Prince of Persia games and versions, ports of the original game, and that is one of my favorite games of all time. And it was kind of this thing of, you know, it would be fun to do a highly organized, formal sort of thing of going through everything. But, you know, I've been satisfied just popping in here and there and playing various versions kind of whenever I felt like it. And what I originally had in mind for this was more of a, well, you know, let's take a look at some of these ports that we haven't looked at yet. There's still a good chunk of them that I've never played. Some of which appear to be quite interesting with some of their own original sort of ideas and content, etc. But so the subscriber goal was kind of a way for me to just say, fuck it, let's commit to actually doing this. Let's not have this thing vaguely hovering over us for years, but let's actually do it. And as I started planning things out, it, like, two things I think kind of became clear to me. One is that, like, man, I really kind of want to do this. I want to do this proper. Like, and I'm still not promising or committing to it, but it's like, step one is, of course, to figure out which games are we actually playing. And to do that, I want to kind of, I made a spreadsheet. Of course, I made a spreadsheet, right? I'm a retro streamer, so of course I made a spreadsheet. And I started charting like what these different versions are, some of which are official, some of which are not. As of now, and this may change, there are 25 games on the list. The idea was, let me just map everything out, and I'll pick and choose which versions I think are relevant and interesting to look at. And that is like slowly mutating into, man, it's gonna be way more interesting to just play all of them. But we'll see. I'm not entirely sure. But the other thing that dawned on me is that, like, because I'm gonna want to kind of go pretty hard on this, this stands to like substantially derail Games Bond. I'd set a goal for myself to finish up Games Bond before the end of this year. We have a very firm deadline, which is March 26th, the release of 007 First Light, and we'll clear that no problem. But there are still things left to do. Games Bond is not entirely done as soon as we have finished game number 50, because not only do we have the impending, not quite unlocked, but very close to it, bonus game of the Xbox Live Arcade remake of GoldenEye, but there's also the whole Bond quotient calculation and everything. I want to rewatch all the films, and that's going to be like a several week engagement at least. So, like, even if I were to finish playing the games, there's probably still going to be things to do, some of which I will want to do on stream. And when all said and done, like the gap of time between being fully wrapped up with everything Games Bond and the launch of First Light, it's already kind of perilously small. And if I were to dedicate myself to playing like 25 Prince of Persia games, I didn't commit to finishing all of them, but I did commit to finish like properly single sitting completion of the Super Nintendo game, and that alone could be like 5 streams. So I'm a little like hesitant to get started on this big project without a solid schedule and plan for how I can juggle both these things. That may mean that we're gonna try to sort of speedrun the Games Bond stuff to have it like to clear the slate in basically as soon as we can in November, to then basically do the Prince of Persia marathon in between the end of Games Bond and the launch of First Light, because by the time that game comes out, I'm going to want to jump on that, and I would rather not have a half-finished Prince of Persia marathon, hanging over me. The other option is that we do them kind of concurrently, that Prince of Persia is something we do, let's say, once weekly, like every Friday is Prince of Persia Friday or something. I'm not entirely sure. Now, the planning to do the Prince of Persia stuff has not been concluded. There are still a handful of games that I don't have on hand just yet. There are other emulators and stuff that I need to set up. I haven't configured everything yet. But it's I could probably get most of that, if not all of it, done over like a weekend. It's not like it's not many, at least, hours of work. It's like a little bit of organization, really. It's just like getting around to it. But that is in the works, and it will happen. Like, I don't want to put it off for too long, but if I decide that I want to finish Games Bond first, then we can at least commit to that and have a plan sort of lined up for it. What's up, Cammy? Welcome, welcome. But that just, I just wanted to give you guys a brief update on what the status is of the promised Prince of Persia port exploration project. And I'm going to say, quite frankly, it is currently leaning towards being a more thorough and complete thing than I had originally intended. And just a final note on that is that, like, part of the reason for that isn't just because I'm getting carried away and I think it's going to be fun. That's part of it. But the bigger reason is that, looking at that list of games, I had to question some of my previous assumptions about several versions being kind of redundant. The biggest reason I didn't feel like I necessarily wanted to play every version was that I thought there's going to be like all of the Japanese PC versions looking from screenshots to be the same game, for example. But like, kind of as I looked into it, it's like, well, they all use the graphics from the PC98 version, but they all have completely different staff, and there might not even be some visual differences, which means they could play very differently. They could still be larger differences than screenshots will fully explain. So I don't want to skip games, at least not a game. Prince of Persia is a good, fun game, and it's not overly long. It's pretty quick to do a run. Even if by definition, a run is a maximum of 60 minutes, right? So it's not an insane commitment to try every version once at least. So there are probably a few versions that are essentially redundant, but out of the 25 or so, I would say probably 5 or less are actually redundant, and even then some of those are like kind of question marks until I actually investigate it. So I think it might more come down to what's the kind of emulator situation like. I don't know much about emulating FM Towns, for example. There is a mobile phone release, which I don't even know if it's going to be. There might actually be multiple mobile phone versions, which I haven't really looked into. So it's probably not going to be like 100% exhaustive, but I think where I'm at currently is that I'm probably leaning towards finishing up the James Bond stuff so that Prince of Persia can kind of take over as the ongoing project, but it's going to be a much smaller one. For essentially the first quarter of 2026. Unless we just get started in early December, because I'm too excited. We'll see. But as things solidify, as plans become more concrete, I'll make sure to make announcements. But at least you have somewhat of an idea of what we might expect. Mendel asks, is there anything different with Quantum of Solace on the Wii from the other ports? So, based on the research that I did, which is not exhaustive to the point of playing it or anything, but based on the research I did, the Wii version of Quantum of Solace is the same game essentially as the Xbox 360 one, but it has obviously Wiimote controls. But from scrubbing through like videos of gameplay, it really did not look. I mean, it's kind of impressive and cool in its own right because it looks good. The visuals hold up well, but it really looks like it's the exact same game. It did not look different enough to justify playing through it. Sure, it'll be fine, but it's not its own. If it was obviously and distinctly different, we would have played it for sure. Anyway, with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let me do a brief moment of preparation here. And we will do a little bit of box art reviewing. So let's hop on over here. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of your typical, from the looks of things anyway, your typical Wii FPS sort of setup. Exactly how well it works and how it controls, obviously, I wouldn't know, but not to say it would be without its novelty of playing through it, but in terms of the mission structure, in terms of the weapons and gameplay mechanics, it didn't really seem like it would offer anything new. Let's get the cover art image here. We are looking at the North American release of Katamari Damacy for PS2. This is, in fact, rarely, perhaps, the same cover art from the Japanese version, which I do own. It's obviously a very fun game, and it's a good cover. It's a very representative cover. It, I think, kind of, well, I guess I shouldn't say rare, but, more than most video games, I think. It's a cover which is simultaneously very literal to the contents and, setting and theme of the game and what you do in the game. But also it simultaneously communicates the vibe and atmosphere and everything around, everything that isn't the actual gameplay, but still is so defining to the kind of character of the game. It's all right there. And not to get too sidetracked, but this is a stark contrast from the sequel. I want to say, I can't remember. I think the US and PAL covers for the second game are the same. But the Japanese cover for the second game is like a photograph of like some kids on a street or something. And the at least the European cover, but I think it's the same in America, is this like extremely crude children's like drawing sort of thing, which is like, it seems like it's meant to mimic the actual vibe and style of the game, but it's like completely ineptly done, and I don't know, it fucking sucks. It's terrible. But thankfully we didn't have to deal with that here. I mean, we as in Europeans didn't have to deal with anything for the first game because it didn't come out here. But you know, that's how it goes. But yeah, this yeah, obviously there's going to be slight differences in terms of the template and like ratings logo and everything, but the artwork's the same. It's, you know, it is simple and understated and basic, but there's not much to say about it in a way. It's beautiful in its own way, it's charming, but I really think that the strongest thing about this game, or about this cover, is how it like communicates the game so well. It's of course a very known quantity at this point. This game's over 20 years old, but at the time, if I had first come across this game by means of seeing this cover on a shelf, I would certainly have been curious to look at the back of the box. I mean, doubly so in the context of American releases, because not to say that this is any more normal in Japan, but in general, PS2 game boxes had a much wider range. I mean, the PS2 library itself has a wider range of different types of games in Japan than anywhere else. But I think by nature of American covers broadly being more like having a narrower range of popular styles and subject matter, meant that just, you know, because of the environment in which it would exist, this cover would stand out more on an American shelf than a Japanese one. So I have to like sort of imagine that context, right? Because this would not have been on a European shelf, but you know, if it had been, I would have been like, you know, what the heck's this? But I remember I first heard about this game in a Swedish magazine that like they reviewed the Japanese version, and I think they even had an interview with Keita Takahashi in the same issue, because like some of the dudes who, you know, worked for that magazine, they were just like super into the game. I think one of the staff members, I don't remember if he was Japanese, or at least he spoke Japanese, and they would have like, this isn't really a thing that was ever, I would say, particularly common in like Swedish gaming magazines, but at that time, at that magazine anyway, they would on occasion like review or cover games. Like they covered Katamari Damacy when it was current, like when it came out in Japan, and they reviewed it because they were like, this game is fucking sick, we got to write about this game. So they covered this game even though it had no presence here. So that's how I like first learned about it, and they were like super, like just like really hyped it up. I mean, and for good reason. It's an excellent game. But if I imagine just like seeing this without knowing anything about it, I think I would still be pretty compelled to try to figure out what the heck this game is. And you know, and it's not doing that through deception. It's not doing that by having a purposefully quirky or like what's the word? Not controversial, but just like, you know, there are games that have boxes that are sort of, that feel like they're designed to pique your curiosity, whether or not the way in which it does that has anything to do with the game itself. And this feel like it's doing that, but in a completely earnest way. It's like the game itself has that quality to it. It's not something that the marketing department came up with, you know? It's in the DNA of the game itself to just have that atmosphere and vibe to it, which I think is cool and part of course, the game's appeal. but it's simultaneously, you know, just a nice composition. It's, you know, the logo is super readable and clean, and it's a cool logo. Can't remember. I'm pretty sure that the Japanese logo is just the kanji. But at least they included it here. They didn't like completely reinvent the I mean, they kept the title, which I mean, to their credit, I guess they realized that this wasn't something they could or should try to transform in localization into something else. I think it probably helped to sell the sort of quirky identity of it by keeping things like the Japanese title, and things like that. I think that like it makes sense. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I could say on one hand that it kind of you know, it passes the kind of poster test in a way. It's not the style or subject matter that I would typically think of as like, oh man, this is a cool poster I would love on my wall. But it is a game I love, and it is amply, you know, appealing in its own way, and its own sort of style. I think as far as what a cover for this game should look like, I think like it nails it. It's got the big ball of stuff. It's got this kind of simple flat look. It's got the cows, which I want to say that they probably, I forget exactly, I don't really remember all the like the story scenes, but I feel like they probably show up. Because obviously, you know, they don't represent what the in-game models would look like, but the illustrations used for like the story cutscenes have a similar sort of style. Yeah, I know there's cows in the game. I just mean specifically the way they're drawn here. And if it's not literally a scene that like a shot in one of the cutscenes, it 100% feels like it would have been. It feels very representative of how the game presents itself outside of the 3D models that we see in the game world. So it's still like very faithful to the game. And having them there, I think, is just purely on a thematic level communicates a sense of irreverence and like humor. So I feel like without the cows, I mean, without them, I wouldn't say that it looks like a horror game or, you know, a disaster game. But having the cows there, I think, definitely elevates the level of, what's the word? Humor isn't exactly the word for it either, but like sort of, I guess irreverence is the word for it. Like, you know, this isn't to be taken too seriously. And I think it really, without using like that many different things, I guess, like it's a remarkably, the cover does a remarkable job, I think, of encapsulating the entirety kind of what this game is. And it's kind of impressive in a way. Like the Prince and the King of All Cosmos, neither of them are visible on the cover. But it doesn't feel, I mean, I guess there's the Royal Rainbow. But I like it's easy to imagine how this could have been more, like they could have had the King of All Cosmos in the background or something. Like they could have put more stuff in it. But I think the fact that it's a little simpler or a little more kind of low key in a way, is a good thing. Like I think it works. It makes it more kind of singular and focused, which I think is pretty great. I think this is an amazing cover. I think this is excellent. I'm gonna give this a 5-star rating. It's such a good cover. I don't have like a mental image of all the other Katamari game covers, especially with all the different like remakes and re-releases and all that. But I feel like even if there are other covers that have more stuff going on and maybe like more of the characters, like the cousins and whatever, like there might be covers that have, or you know, key arts that cover different aspects of it and that are appealing and charming in their own way. I feel like this is still like, this is hard to beat, dude. Like it's just like, I think for what it is, like I barely see how this could be improved. Like it's just a really good cover in my opinion. So there you go. You asked for my opinion, and there you have it. So, with that out of the way, why don't we get a little bit of an introduction to the game that we shall be playing on tonight's stream. Let's hop on over to the Bond scene. We hydrate. That's exactly the covers for the remake. Yeah, sounds about right. I realize I've made a grave error in preparation for this stream, or lack thereof, but we'll get to that in a moment. I say grave error, obviously, a little bit facetiously. It doesn't really matter. But today, we are talking about, well, briefly, and then playing Top Trumps 007 The Best of Bond. Java phone game released in 2011. Developed by a prestigious developer. It's all in the game, baby. Published by Connect2 Media. With every screen James Bond, plus iconic classic Bond bad guys and allies, this is the world's coolest card game and the definitive 007 mobile experience. Well, I guess we'll be the judge of that. From Sean Connery to Daniel Craig, from Blofeld to Goldfinger, this Top Trump pack includes all your favorites. Hit character against character and grab as many cards as you can in the easy-to-play and compelling Top Trumps format. Play classic or tournament modes or head-to-head in two-player Bluetooth games. And this is where we get to my late realized negligence, which is that I should have done more research and prepared some materials to talk about Top Trumps, because this is not something I'm particularly familiar with, and I mainly have a few vague recollections from when I was first setting up the whole project and putting together the game list, and that was years ago, so I don't really have this fresh in mind, and it would have helped to have done a little more reading up on it. It's not something we really have much reason to cover in depth, but I'll try my best to I don't know, recall what little I found out, and maybe there's someone in chat to help fill in the blanks. I don't know. But to my knowledge, to my understanding, Top Trumps is a brand, a series of card games. In fact, I'm just gonna not put this on stream here, but I'm just gonna Google it, and indeed, immediately I'm getting a million images here, and I'm sure these are well, like, alive and well, and I imagine that this is a British thing. I don't know how popular or available this is outside of the UK or the Commonwealth. But that was the impression I got when I first did some research on it as well. Let me, you know what, let me try to do some live on-air stream production here and try to get some images saved here, and we can actually look at this. Not too late. I just should have done this before. Let me just save a few pictures here, and I can show them to you, and we can as best we can figure out if we can learn how Top Trumps works. I think I'm getting the hang of this. Okay, let's see here. That'll work. Is there anything else here that? Oh, okay. I think we got what we need. Maybe we can actually. Okay, hang on. Give me a second. Give me a second. I want to try to find some other like examples. Okay, sure. This'll do. All right. Let's see if we can get these images on stream. Now let's hide all, and let's make sure I don't put anything incriminating on screen here. There we go. So top trumps. As you can see, these are themed with all kinds of, I guess, mostly licenses, but also animals. This is just a random example, I guess, but we've got Women's European Football Champions. So I guess, presumably, this is not a deck of cards featuring Women's European Football Champions throughout the ages, but rather probably England won the Women's European Football Championship, and they made a deck about that team, if I had to guess. We've got World Football Stars, Top Trumps Specials, whatever that means. Deadliest Predators, Grand Prix Heroes, who is the greatest? There seems to be a lot of sports stuff, which makes sense because this is like the most mainstream of mainstream stuff, and I have to imagine that, like, from my understanding, the game itself is extremely basic, but it's probably targeting a very young demographic. So there's also cool themes like fast cars, dinosaurs, Marvel comic book superheroes, Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park. Who's the most lovable? Dogs. Wonders of the world. All right. Got a pink box here for girls, obviously. Horses and ponies and unicorns. Top Trumps Specials, the independent and unofficial guide to Minecraft. So it's not a Minecraft themed deck of cards. It's an independent, unofficial guide to Minecraft themed deck of cards, apparently. We got one for Fortnite. We got Kings and Queens, Disney, Roblox, of course, yeah. Top 30 emojis. They're not emoji and they're not emoticons, they're just emojis I've never seen before. Yeah, my Minecraft flashcards. Horrible histories. Baby animals, WWE. So you can already see that this is more modern stuff, right? So we got like AJ Styles and fucking the Shield and whatever. This is like current, well, not current, but relatively current WWE. Whereas like the other stuff was, you know, Star Wars Episode 1. I'm not gonna look at that spider. Shopkins, who's the super shopper? Is this like some kind of supermarket themed kids property that I, for natural reasons, have never heard of? I'm not sure. We got Frozen. 30 top moments from Friends, the TV series. That does not seem particularly, you know, contemporary. Ultimate military jets. I think you get the idea. We got a lot of animals and cars and movie stars and cartoons. More fucking spiders. Yeah, more Star Wars. Might have to pull out the Discord picture of kids Shopkins. I mean, I would stop you, I guess, but it may be of real limited relevance. So I just grabbed some random examples of, I guess, Top Trumps cards. And this seems to be the thing, right? So within each deck, every character has like a bunch of different stats. And then I guess they have some sort of global Top Trumps rating, which is like a score of some kind, I guess. And based on my like 45 seconds or so of trying the mobile game, as I understand it, the basic rule for the game is that you draw a card and you look at your card, or, you know, you just pick the top card of your pile and you look at the stats for your card, your character or whatever, and you look at the stats and you go, all right, so Spider-Man here, for example, I choose which stat I sort of use or play with. And in this case, like, I guess special powers 40, that's, I mean, I'm guessing it's out of a scale of 100, so that's higher than a lot of the other things. So I'll bet on my special powers. And then the other player kind of shows their card, and whoever has the higher value for that particular stat, like wins, and I think we'll see how it works in the games, but it's something like if you win, you put the opponent's cards at the bottom of your pile, and if it's a draw, then like both cards go to some kind of pot pile, and whichever player wins the next showdown just takes whatever's in the pot, whatever. And the objective of the game is simply to exhaust your opponent's draw pile, and that's, as far as I can tell, is all there is to the game. Got world football stars Lionel Messi. Top Trumps quiz fact file. All right, whatever. Top Trumps monsters of RuneScape. Yeah, so I just wanted to grab a slightly higher quality picture. As we saw from the other photos, this appears to be like the typical Top Trumps packaging form factor, where it's in this kind of travel-friendly plastic case. We haven't looked at a lot of different cards to kind of compare, but my understanding is that, and I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that each of these decks, they will have these cards, and they will have maybe the same amount of stat categories. If not, they're going to have different types of stats, but maybe the same amount of categories, so that different decks are, like, to some degree or another compatible with each other. I guess you could always use the Top Trumps rating, which I guess is going to be there for every card, regardless of deck. I'm not sure exactly. Obviously, that's not something we have to deal with in the mobile game. But I guess that's like the general gist of it. You pick a deck, you buy this because you like horses or Star Wars or dogs or cars or whatever. And, you'll just play this with your sibling in the back of the car or whatever, and you just pick a number, whichever owns the higher number for that stat wins the cards, and that's the game basically. So of course I came across this mobile game in the context of James Bond video games. I didn't really do a lot of research, but I have to assume that there were other Top Trumps mobile games. It doesn't really make sense to me that this would be the one version they made. It makes sense to me that they would make separate games or apps instead of having like one. I mean, nowadays it would be a different thing, of course, but back then the App Store was around. It was 2011, but this was a Java phone thing, which kind of makes sense because in 2011 the people who would have owned a smartphone would perhaps not have been the target demographic for a Top Trumps game, if I had to guess. Maybe the people who would be playing or interested in playing Top Trumps would have had, a hand-me-down Nokia or Sony Ericsson handset, and they could play this, I guess. I don't really know. That's speculation, but I could imagine it. But I have to imagine that Connect2Media and prestigious developer It's All in the Game Baby might have made one Top Trumps template that they reskinned with 20 different IP, much the same as the physical card game did. That would not have shocked me. But this is not a Java phone card game marathon. We are strictly interested in the science of exploring James Bond video game adaptations, and as such, this is the one Top Trumps game we will care about and investigate. But there we go. We managed a slight bit of orientation, Top Trumps orientation. Before we get to the game, we of course also need to check in on the Q Branch Research Funding Initiative. This is the mechanic by which you can help me help you. You can enable me to commit to playing additional bonus games. And in this case, we are on the verge of unlocking the final, 7th and final, presumably, for now, bonus mission and bonus game, which is the canceled... do we have a thing for this here? Yeah. The all but finished but unreleased officially Xbox Live Arcade port / remake of GoldenEye 007. As is described here, this game was originally intended to be released at some point in 2007 or 2008, but due to the complicated licensing situation, the whole project fell through, and this was never released. In fact, I don't think it was ever officially announced in any capacity. I think there may have been rumors that it was in the works, but it was never officially acknowledged by Microsoft or Rare or Nintendo or Eon or anyone. But it did find its way in a near finished state onto the internet a couple of years ago. And as such, we will have the ability to investigate this. As far as I'm aware, the single player component of the game is completely intact. Everything is there. But the online multiplayer, or any kind of multiplayer perhaps, doesn't work or wasn't finished or whatever. But that doesn't really matter for the purposes of this series anyway. And this is like a whole bonus thing anyway. But this is the game in question. And in order to unlock this game and add it to the list of games to be played, we need to complete 10 daily objectives, which is done by reaching 1,000 Q credits over a single stream. Q credits are raised by subscribing, donating, cheering, using bits, or buying merch. Anything that helps put food on my table and helps cover my rent will get us closer to the goal at a rate of 1 credit per bit or equivalent. So every contribution counts, but if we amass enough of them over the course of one stream, that is a daily objective completed. And since we have now completed 9 out of 10 daily objectives, we are essentially one stream away, one sufficiently prosperous stream away from having completed this goal. If and when we do hit our 10th and final daily objective, I will add this to the schedule, but I'm not sure when we will do it. I'm not necessarily committing to doing this next. I might, especially with the scheduling situation as it is with the Prince of Persia project and First Light looming on the horizon, I might well commit to doing game 49 and 50 first, and then doing this as like a bonus post game 50, because as I said before, there will still probably be a little bit of a gap between finishing game number 50 and doing the finale, because of the research and data collection still needed for the watching the films and everything. So that's probably how we'll do it. So we still have plenty of time, and even if we should finish game 50 and we still are somehow yet to finish this 10th goal, this is gonna be running in the background until we do get to it. So we'll get to it eventually, but that's the status. We do have 2 games left after Top Trumps, one of which is another GoldenEye game, the PS3 GoldenEye Reloaded, which we'll see how much of a different experience it will be from the Wii game, but it should be a little bit different, if nothing else, on account of the controls. And the final game in the ordinary lineup is 007 Legends, which I'm actually incredibly excited to play. It's not a well-regarded game, but that's never stopped me in the past. I'm excited for it. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We are, of course, here to play some Top Trumps. And without further ado, let's do it. Let's actually get the timer up here. Totally forgot about that. So like, take a quick look on the spreadsheet here. Let me update this. Date, it is the 29th of October today. Go, that's fine. So let's do this. Get the timer on screen. There's probably not going to be a lot of music in this game. There's probably going to be maybe a jingle or a little bit of Bond theme music that will most likely not loop. But for the, I don't know, for the authentic mobile phone gaming experience, we will refrain from having a bunch of Zuntata jams blasting in the background. I think we are. I think we're about ready to go. So let's get the game capture up and do it. Okay. Here's to work. Do English. Winning Moves. So Winning Moves, I believe, is the publisher of the actual physical card game. It's all in the game, baby. You bet I'm gonna enable sound. See here. Turn this up. I'm like trying to parse if there's like a tinge of Bond music here, or is this just the Top Trumps theme song? Very laid back music. There's classic mode, tournament mode. Options help about advertising for more games. Do a little exploration here first. Right. About... Yeah, Top Trump is a registered trademark of Winning Moves UK Limited. Actual credits. That's like kind of impressive. Not something you necessarily get with mobile games. Pretty cool. Help. Classic tournament controls, menu and modes. Guess this will explain to us the general rules here. Cards are dealt equally between both players. Each player sees their top card only. On your turn, pick a statistic to go up against your opponent. If your chosen category is higher than your opponent's corresponding number, then you win. In the event of a draw, play... Wait, what? In the event of a draw, comma, play is repeated with a new card each. All 1 cards go to the bottom of your pile, and you get to choose again with your next top card. It doesn't really say that you win the card, but I think that's the implication here. If the statistics are equal, or there's no data for that category, then both cards go into the pot, and the controlling player chooses another stat from their next top card. The eventual winner gains all the cards in the pot. So I wonder if this rule is for if you're playing with cards from different decks. Like if I pick my Spider-Man card and I pick the superpower stat, and you play fucking, I don't know, Lionel Messi, and he doesn't have superpowers, then neither player wins? Maybe that's how that works, because I would assume that all the cards from the same deck like have the same types of stats. Unless there's just like a non-applicable something. I don't know. We'll see if that rule comes up. I mean, you would imagine that the rule will have an impact on this game, otherwise it would be kind of pointless to include it. But it could also be that they're just kind of reprinting the rules of the card game verbatim. We'll find out. The game ends when one player wins by holding all the cards. So I wonder if we get some kind of visual indicator of, like, I don't know, thickness of card piles, or how that works. Or we just have to, like, trust the game and just, we're out of cards. You win. Okay, whatever. So that's classic. War with extra steps. Yeah, I guess basically it's not necessarily so many extra steps as it is you can pick, every card has 4 different numbers instead of 1, but that's about it. Tournament. The idea of tournament mode is to fill your peg bar with pegs before your opponent. Not what I'd imagined. On your turn, you stop the spinner on a minigame and attempt to win pegs. The minigames... Okay, this is... I thought this was like win against multiple opponents, but this is a totally different thing. Shootout. Both players are dealt 1 card. The controlling player picks a category. The player with the highest number wins a peg. So is that just like... Yeah, it looks like shootout is like you play a round of top trumps. In the event of draw, play is repeated with a new card each, but using the same category, so you don't get to pick another category. Right. Lucky Dip. Both players are dealt one card. The controlling player picks a category. Except in Lucky Dip, you cannot see what the value of the card you are choosing is. In the event of a draw play is repeated, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Winner receives a peg. High-low. In high-low, you can win up to 2 pegs. You pick a category from the card you are dealt. Now you choose whether the next card will have a higher or lower number on that stat. If you are correct, or the number is the same, you win a peg, and you get to guess for the next card. Wait, what? When it says you get to guess for the next card, does it mean that I then draw a third card? Whatever. Win 2 pegs. Lucky players landing on this space automatically win 2 pegs for their peg bar. It's like, yeah, we couldn't come up with any other minigames. Fine. Head to head, both players are dealt 3 cards. The controlling player picks a category, and if it's higher than the opponent's number, they retain control and pick a category from their next card. The loser has to discard their card when only one player has cards. Okay. I mean, there's only so much we can do with the actual card playing rules. I mean, I think you could imagine taking things a little bit further than this, but there's a lot of very, very slight variations on the basic gameplay concept here. Okay, but this, I mean, it sounds like a more elaborate version than just classic, so that's kind of cool. They didn't necessarily need to include that. Controls, I imagine, is going to be... I mean, I guess I imagine that the controls are largely going to be on screen anytime we need them, so... Yeah, I was going to say, I vaguely recall, because I looked through some of this extremely briefly when I booted this up the other day, just to make sure it worked. And I wanted to say that I had seen something that didn't seem to imply that tournament mode was based on something else. And yeah, it says here, a version based on the Top Trumps tournament board game. But that makes me curious if the rules, if it's just like vaguely inspired, or if it is like the exact rules. Because I feel like, again, the kind of game designer in me feels compelled to like come up with a more compelling or more sort of not necessarily complex, but just a rule set that has a little bit more to it. I want to note, by the way, that the music has not ceased playing. I may be jinxing it by bringing it up, but whenever we play Java phone games, it seems to be a fairly common thing that a tune will start playing, then after like 1 minute, it'll just end, and then there's no more music. Like every level might start with music and then it just ends. Or in, I think License to Drive had like music on the first level, and then it didn't loop, and then it didn't start playing music again for the rest of the entire game. So the fact that even if it's just on the main menu, we have actual looping music, it's like, now that's production values. I think we're ready to start playing, so I think we're gonna just start the timer there. Head into a game of classic Top Trumps 007, the best of Bond, and try our luck. We're still in the help page, I see. Classic. Okay, so I have 16 cards. There's 0 in the pot. You'll have music. We are dealt the card Francisco Scaramanga. We'll get the lore. The world's most desired assassin, Francisco Scaramanga, plans to steal a new energy system and auction it to the highest bidder. Raised in a circus where his sole friend was an elephant, Scaramanga became a master with a pistol and was recruited by the KGB before treading the path of the hitman. His price? $1 million per kill. There's like pretty extensive lore here. That's pretty sick, actually. Okay. Okay, so maybe the stats are different, because the stats here are appeared, so that's like first appearance. I have to assume that... Well, maybe not. I was gonna say, I have to assume that appearing earlier is like a higher stat, but technically appearing later would mean a higher number. So I think it just says the higher number wins, right? So let's assume that 74 is a relatively weak stat on that front. So we have appeared, style, seduction, brutality, and twisted. Oh, there's more here. Threat. 100. Okay, well, we've got to go with that. Let's try to keep mental tabs here on these different stats to see if they're the same here. Twisted, but he's not that twisted actually. I mean, I question the style rating of 6, but threat level 100. Boom. Okay, we're up against. Oh, look at that. All right, we won George Lazenby Bond with the threat level 0. Oh shit, it's Robbie Coltrane. Valentin Zukovsky. Ex-KGB man Valentin Zukovsky and Bond share an uneasy peace. Bond once shot Zukovsky in the leg, so when he turns to the arms dealer for help, it's clearly a tense situation. Zukovsky can identify a weapon just by its sound, but eventually becomes a legitimate businessman dealing in caviar. His temper and ferocity come to the surface once more when his nephew is killed. So 1995, Style 6, Seduction 30, Brutality 28, Twisted 6, Threat 60. I guess again we're operating on a scale of 1 to 100. So 60 I think is still a pretty good stat, right? There's not that many. Like if Scaramanga is 100, I mean this guy isn't even a pure villain, so I guess like most proper villains would have a higher rating. But there's got to be allies, and I guess threat. Like, it's funny that Bond, even if it's specifically Lazenby Bond, had a threat of 0, but I interpret that to mean that like it's not a rating of their like skillful deadliness, but just like how evil they are or whatever. I mean, I don't know, like 95 is pretty late, sure. But this game could also be pretty heavy on like Daniel Craig characters, right? I mean, even 95 is even the earliest what's his name? Pierce Brosnan film, right? So, well, I guess 2011 means that there are only 2 Daniel Craig movies out. But if we think of it in terms of films, right? Because there's, I guess, 3 Brosnan movies after this, and at this point 2. But you might actually be right, because 95. You know what? We should pick this so we can at least confirm whether it's good to be, you know, have a high number or early appearance. Let's find out. I appeared 1995. Pussy Galore appeared 64. We win. Okay. So we want to have a high number. Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Style 2, Seduction 1. I mean, he's got to have a mega high threat level, right? Because he's like shit at everything else. 250! Fuck! Okay, this throws everything into question. I thought we were operating on a scale of 1 to 100. Alright. Let's learn the lore. One of Bond's oldest nemeses, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, founder of Spectre, has eluded capture for years despite attempts to build bacteria weaponry, space weapons, and steal numerous bombs. Blofeld changes his physical identity so he can remain an enigma. Insane genius even convinces his followers to alter their appearance and voice to become his doubles. I wonder, I mean, I guess this is specifically the You Only Live Twice Blofeld. There's been a couple of different ones. But yeah, let's go threat 250. I thought it was like a done deal at 100, but James Bond, threat 0. Well, I was gonna say, man, my opponent gets all the James Bond cards, but I mean, technically we have 2 James Bonds now, at least. We don't know how many we started with. It's so fucking funny that everyone has like single-digit style. But then we're gonna get fucking Roger Moore with style of 250 or some shit. General Gogol, the head of the KGB, Anatol Gogol crosses paths with 007 several times after he dispatches Agent XXX to work alongside Bond. Seeming slightly wary of the Cold War in his later missions, he reaches an uneasy truce with Bond as he begins to see a wider picture of the world. This later becomes a true alliance as Gogol rewards 007 with an Order of Lenin for stopping his proteges Max Zorin. His proteges, plural, Max Zorin, from fulfilling his evil plan. Yeah, I'm sure different Bonds... I mean, Lazenby had like the kilt and everything, right? That should be a pretty high style rating. Alright. Style 4, Seduction 8, Brutality 26, Twisted 9, Strat 54. This is not a super strong card in general. But you know, if we pick Threat and we're up against any kind of good guy, that's still a win. 1977 is a little bit of a dicey. Let's go with Threat. Threat 54 versus. Rolls like 103. Yeah, I was gonna say she's gonna have a high rating for sure. She had style 1. We could have picked our style 4 and 1. Oh, they pick. Oh, so we had Teehee, Necros. Oh yeah, the Milkman. So we lost another card. Okay, yeah, because I was thinking before, like, oh, do we just get to pick every time? But no, it's because we kept winning. We got to keep picking. Oh man, they played Twisted with a stat of 17 and actually won. I'm shocked. I barely understand what Twisted is supposed to be for. If Onatop has a rating of 17. Baron Samedi style 6? That's a fucking joke. Baron Samedi should be a style fucking 250. Opponent playing here 2006. That's a shit. We gotta win this. Yeah, the computer's just picking shit at random. Yeah, you would think Onatop should have a high Twisted rating, but she had like 17. Like, we haven't seen one over 20, I think. All right, let me hydrate before we pick a card here. So we lost a whole bunch of cards there, it felt like, but there was at least one draw. Yeah, and then we won the draw. That's why we were back. We won like 3 cards at once there, I guess. So we're in the lead still. We have Roger Moore Bond. Live and Let... So I wonder if... Yeah, right. So appeared 73. Live and Let Die was Moore's first Bond film. So I guess they have the sort of first appearance of each Bond actor. Unless there is also like a, you know, View to a Kill James Bond from 85 or whatever. That would be pretty fun. Style set. Who the fuck has style? Like, I thought they were like making fun of Scaramanga with a style rating of 6 or whatever, but dude, he's like fucking neck and neck with Roger Moore. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, Threat goes apparently at least up to 250. Twisted apparently goes from 0 to about 18. Brutality. Seduction at 40. Surely Roger Moore Bond's seduction skills should be like at 250, and then maybe Sean Connery's is at like 850. 40, like, this is baffling. So like, seduction 40 sounds like it should be low for anyone having a seduction stat, but I feel like we might be up against a lot of people who has seduction of like 4. So it seems like even if brutality is the higher number, I think we're in competition with more people that might have higher values. So let's go with seduction. Betting on Bond's seduction skill. Yeah, higher than Q. Q had a seduction of 11, which is still higher than some characters. But yeah, it's like if you bet on Roger Moore's, you know, Roger Moore's James Bond's seduction abilities and you lose, then it's like, come on, man, that was a reasonable bet. What's up, LCC? Uses card template for streamers with these stats. Miss Moneypenny would have, you know, been an even step with James Bond, which seems simultaneously appropriate but also not really right. Brutality 1. It's not a 0, but it's a 1. Styles. Why does everyone have like single digit style rating? Well, obviously we gotta go with seduction, not only because 40 I think is a legitimately strong stat. He has very weak stats and everything. Like appeared 1962 is literally the weakest possible stat, or weakest possible value for that stat. So let's go with seduction. We're up against Le Chiffre. So he has seduction 24. But yeah, like the biggest challenge is like trying to figure out the scale of the stats. We forgot to read the lore. Let's read the lore on Auric Goldfinger. The audacious Auric Goldfinger plans to steal the gold from Fort Knox using an atomic device and lethal nerve gas sprayed from the skies. Obsessed with ownership, even of people, Goldfinger is cruel and jealous. Bond is dispatched to investigate Operation Grand Slam and sees that Goldfinger's competitive streak is his weakness. Brutality 60. Oh, threat 198. Okay, yeah, we gotta go with that, of course. Twisted 18. Seduction 8. Style? Like, is this on a scale of 1 to 10? Or indeed 1 to 7? Like, on what? I mean, I wouldn't say that Auric Goldfinger specifically is like some kind of, like, his standout feature isn't being some kind of fashion icon, but on what scale is he a 5? At least, you know, when we have other things going up. Again, I thought it was on a scale to a 1 from 0 to 100, but threat, even if it's just that one stat, goes way higher. This is confusing, but let's go with threat level. GoldenEye Bond. I win. All right. Where are we at? 20? 21. Okay. Dominic Green. This guy's like such a nothing character. The beautiful Camille leads 007, investigating a traitor in MI6, to Dominic Green, a wealthy and powerful businessman. In league with an exiled South American general, Green plans to take over the supply of one of the world's most precious resources, and his web of allies and deceit tests Bond to the very limits. Even his description is fucking generic. Yeah, this is a guy from Quantum of Solace. So 2008 is literally... This is the most recent film, right? Because Skyfall was 2012. So this seems like they could pick a more threatening villain. Seduction 25 style. Like, surprisingly, we haven't seen a lot of like Bond girls or other like side characters. It's been like supporting, you know, Q and Moneypenny, various Bonds and villains. Because you would think that maybe style is for like all the hot babes or whatever, and maybe seduction stats, but there haven't been like any of those either. Like those characters just haven't shown up yet. Yeah, just one under Goldfinger. Yeah, let's go with appeared. I appeared 2008. Felix Leiter. the 2006 version of Felix Leiter first appeared in 2006 in Casino Royale. Oh, Max Zorin. Old Christopher Walken in a weirdly uncharismatic role. The psychotic Max Zorin is the result of a steroid experiment in concentration camps. He is a genius who speaks 5 languages and uses steroids to manipulate horse races. KGB agent, yet one with no loyalty, he is also at the forefront of the technological revolution and plans to flood San Francisco Valley, where 80% of the world's microchips are made, so he can hold the industry to ransom. Nice little typo there. Is style? Is that on a scale? Like, what's the highest style rating we've seen? Yeah, I think I forget if Scaramanga had 4 or 6 or something. Like maybe it's on a scale to 5. I'm not sure. Seduction 28, brutality 58, twisted 19, threat 220. Twisted seems like so. What does it take to have a high twisted rating? Gotta go with threat level 220. Rebellion 240. I was gonna say they gotta pick like a real power villain to lose that, but fair enough, I guess. Style 5 for Oddjob. Brutality 58 versus Okay, we won. We defeated Sean Connery and recruited him. Bond had a style of 7. Yeah, okay. So fucking Mr. White from Casino Royale, who appears in like 1.5 scenes. Style 3. Seduction 18. Threat 206. Mr. White is a mysterious man that 007 identifies as part of an underground network that funds international chaos. He has spun an intricate web around Vesper Lynn and Le Chiffre that ensures the money from the poker tournament ends up with his organization. 007, fueled by his law, seeks out Mr. White and the stakes are raised. Yeah, so he's like supposed to be the main villain and basically probably should have been Secret Blofeld Inspector, but then... Or not even really, like, they shouldn't have had Blofeld, obviously, but he should have been the main villain, but then it's like, yeah, whatever the fuck. Let's just make up the plot as we go. But yeah, 2006, like, Threat 206 is relatively high, but 2006 is only someone from Quantum of Solace could beat this score, and we have one of the maybe 3 possible characters that could be from that movie. Because there probably isn't going to be a second Daniel Craig from there, but it would probably be Camille if there's one other character. Even though, again, that kind of character, like, we haven't seen those. Like, so far it's really just kind of main villains. And, well, and henchmen, I guess. Jaws. Style 1, Seduction 10, Brutality 60, Twisted 16, Threat 87. 7'2" with steel teeth and the strength of many men, Jaws hunts Bond on 2 occasions, for both Stromberg and Drax. Jaws' assaults on Bond are spectacular and take place across the globe, from the pyramids of Egypt to the cable cars of Sugarloaf Mountain. Their final fight is literally out of this world, but he realizes that he can never be part of the perfect world that Drax is creating, and saves Bond. Yeah, he's in 2 films and 16 video games. A bit more than that, maybe. I guess Brutality 60 is quite high. I don't know that we've seen much higher than that. Sean Connery was 50. Yeah, Dr. No, like you would have thought, could maybe have been higher, but he was 25. I guess Brutality is more to do with like physical prowess. All right, so we worked our way through the deck. We're back to Scaramanga. And if we were some sort of card counting experts here, we might have some sense of... I guess we wouldn't still really know what's in the opponent's deck, because I'm not sure if they would like loop around at the same pace. Yeah, Style 6, Seduction 31, Brutality 42, Twist... Like, Twisted 14 is a better stat than it looks like. Threat 100 is actually... It's... For a main villain, it's like kind of low. But statistically, let's go with it anyway. Yeah, General Gogol. So I guess the cards... Are they now going through the cards that we lost to them? Because we had Gogol before. I guess this means like you could... With a deck this small, it could be a legitimate strategy of this game to like mentally track which cards, which actually honestly adds an interesting layer of strategy to the game. You could kind of mentally track which cards might come up. All right. Australian model George Lazenby played 007 just once, but it was a very significant adventure. After a string of beautiful conquests and close shaves, Bond met Tracy Di Vincenzo and fell in love. In the face of a dastardly plot by Ernst Stavro Blofeld and Spectre, this adventure was full of emotion as well as action. Seduction 28. What did... Roger Moore had like 40, I think. Style 7 is a... Do we want to go with that? I think 7 is one of the highest style ratings we've seen. 69 is obviously not a strong stat there, and everything else is like kind of questionable. Brutality, I think, is lower than many of the... Well, Dr. No is Brutality 25, but any henchman probably has a higher value. Let's go style 7 and see where that takes us. Yeah, Rosa Klebb. I would not say that style was her defining stat. So I'm also curious, we started with 16 cards each, right? There's a 32 card deck. I wonder if that, like, is that the entire deck? Is 32 the number of cards that exist in this game? Or are we just dealt 16 cards from a bigger pile and that is a subsection of the existing card library that we get to play with? I'm gonna guess the latter, because there's some strange omissions otherwise. Like, if we have gone through the deck and we've gotten Zukovsky and what's his name? Sean Bean, but not Pierce Brosnan, that doesn't make any sense. So maybe my perception of what characters are in this are a little bit skewed because we're just looking at a subsection of cards. That could very well be. All right, so now that we have a slightly better sense, so style 6 in fact is a relatively high number. Threat 60 is not very high. Brutality 28. Seduction 30 is decent, but I'm gonna say style 5 or 6 even. It's a relatively strong. Yeah, Teehee at a style of 4. Which, by the way, I think Teehee is more stylish than Zukovsky, but yeah, Pussy Galore is style of 6. Seduction 43. Twisted 2. Threat 30. When Bond meets Pussy Galore, she's Art Goldfinger's personal pilot, an integral ally in Operation Grand Slam. But despite her contempt for men and her ruthless and greedy side, she's not a cold-blooded killer. She makes a last-minute alteration to her flying circus's cargo to save many lives. She's a woman of strong will and more than a match for Bond's charms. Seduction 40... Well, style 6 is still high, but seduction... Actually, hang on. I kept thinking of Sean Connery, but the stat that he had a 50 in brutality. I don't think I know what his seduction stat is, but 43 seems high. Let's go with it. Yeah, Necros seduction 5. But it would have been more interesting to see how we fared against someone who didn't have like a nothing stat. All right, Blofeld. We're at 250. It's the highest we've seen. We can't lose. Yeah, Nick Knack, threat 50. We're about to win here, I think. Yeah, they have 3 cards left. In the late 1980s, the role of James Bond became Timothy Dalton's. Seeking a return to a more literary 007, Dalton portrayed the character as a ruthless and somewhat bitter agent who was ill at ease with his superiors' decisions. Dalton's second assignment took 007 in a different direction as his license was revoked, and his mission became personal. Dude, License to Kill is such a good movie. Yeah, Style 7, Seduction 30, Brutality 45, Twisted 8. Yeah, Style 7, I guess it is on a scale from 00 to 7, because I don't think we've seen anyone with a higher rating than 7. On top, Style 6. And I think she should have a very high style rating. I think Onatop should reasonably have a higher style rating than Judi Dench's M. With all due respect to Dame Judi Dench, her depiction of M, probably like the best character in any of those movies. I think Onatop deserves a higher style rating. M, the head of MI6, has given many assignments to 007, and she is not afraid to challenge him, nor is he afraid to learn from her. Through Bond's initiation into 00 ranks, his capture and torture, M's kidnap, and the revoking of Bond's license to kill, M has challenged Bond's unorthodox methods and hedonism. Whether residing in a wood-paneled office or a luxury London flat, M has always understood that Bond knows his job best, just as she knows hers. Alright. Style 6, Seduction 13, Brutality 21, Twisted 9, Threat 0. Alright, we gotta go with Style 6. Not unbeatable, but pretty high. Yeah, Max Zorin, Style 5. You win. I guess if Mayday was there, she would have had style like 14. You know, okay, given the fact that the style scale appears to be from 0 to 7, I can more easily accept that Baron Samedi would have a style of 6. But I don't think, I think he should have a higher style rating than Bond, personally. What's up, Sam Hine 666? Dr. Kananga employs one of his men to personify the mythical Baron Samedi, a mischievous demon who tempts and punishes humans. Keeping the Baron's voodoo legend alive keeps Kananga's minions in check and his poppy field safe. Samedi taunts Solitaire with her own tarot cards, and despite being shot and thrown into a pit of poisonous snakes, chases her to the very end. Man, Live and Let Die is like simultaneously such an incredibly sick movie, and like half of it is sick and half of it is like boring, which I think describes many Bond films actually. I like, it's like such a perfect thing that the theme song has like 4 bars that like are super sick, and then like the entire rest of the song like no one knows or remembers because it's just like boring nothingness, and that's like the perfect representation of that film. But anyway, threat level 226 I think is about as good as, I mean, style 6 is hard to beat, but threat 226, I think we've only seen 2 cards that can beat it. But now that I think of it, isn't his last card probably Trevelyan? I think it, because it's the only card I've seen that I haven't won against, I'm pretty sure, right? Which means that has a threat level of like 240 or something. But Twisted 19 may well be the highest rating we've even seen for Twisted. I think Onatop had like 17 or 18. Out of the characters in GoldenEye, I don't think that they would make Trevelyan be a more twisted character than Onatop. I could be wrong. Style 6 is probably a strong bet, but I'm gonna take my chances with Twisted. Now, even if I lose this card, whenever we get our turn back, they're still gonna have pretty few cards. So let's see if I'm right about this. Yeah. Oh, Twisted 18. That was a close one, but we got it. All right. That was not very ceremonious, but we did it. We won. Sup, the opponent? You don't understand this game? The rules are extremely simple. I like that the choices aren't yes or no. It's play again or give up. I want to go back to the menu because I want to try the other mode. I won. I don't feel great about having to pick the option that says give up, but we'll do it. Yeah, I'm sure. So the way it works is each player gets dealt a pile of cards. You pick the top card from the pile, and if it's your turn, you pick a stat out of the 5 or however many stats are available, which is like which stat you will play with or bet on or whatever you want to call it. And both players present their cards and you compare the score for that particular stat. So if I picked style for Baron Samedi and it's a 6, I compare it to the style value of my opponent's card, and whoever has the higher style value wins and gets to take both of those cards and put them at the bottom of their pile. And if you won that showdown, you get to pick the stat for the next showdown. And it kind of goes like that until one player has no cards left and the player who has all the cards have won. That's the basic gameplay loop. So we completed one game of Classic, and I'd happily play a few more games just to see if there are other cards. But we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here, because we're gonna check out the tournament mode, and we'll find out pretty quickly if there are other cards, or if there's literally only 32 cards, which would be kind of weird. And even weirder, the selection of characters that they chose to include, or rather the characters that they chose to omit. So I'm pretty sure that there are more cards. It would be interesting to know how many, but maybe it's more interesting if we don't know. But yeah, let's try tournament mode. opponent versus you. Okay. So the way this works is that there's a series of different mini games that are very slight alterations to the basic rules. So we are helped by the fact that we actually played. We've seen at least this card previously, and even if we hadn't seen this card, we can make some inferences and guesses as to how the stuff works, but we can read the lore anyway. Odd Job. The perfect combination of strength, skill, and loyalty. Auric Goldfinger's manservant knows 7 ways to kill a man with just one blow. He can also crush a golf ball with one hand. Locked inside a US gold vault, Oddjob tries to use his metal-rimmed bowler hat to escape, leading to an electrifying defeat. Spoilers. Obviously his appearance date is terrible, because we want that number to be high. I would say brutality, threat, or style could be reasonably high. Sneeze. He's a dapper gentleman, and given given the range we've seen, I think style is an okay bet to make here. 5, okay. Brutality at 58 would have been pretty good, but yeah, style of 5 is stronger than Dr. No. So far, cards we've seen. 1 peg. Yeah, so we're collecting oh, that's our little peg. I see, okay. So you can barely, I guess, kind of make out how many little peg slots there are. Do we continue again? Lucky dip. Nope, opponent's playing. All right, we're taking turns. Felix Ladder. Okay. I'm getting a feeling that there won't be any new cards. I think we have seen every card. So far, they're all repeating. All right, my turn. Do we get a different mini game? This head to head. Oh, this is when we pick 3 cards, I think. Casino Royale Bond. I think this might have flashed by quickly or before, but we didn't get to play this card, so we didn't get to like read the lore. In 2006, Daniel Craig's agent was given 00 status and became James Bond. A compulsive and passionate agent, Bond is not afraid to break the rules, even breaking into M's flat. Brutal and uncompromising, 007 has a tender and caring side, but he soon learns the dark side of his new role and learns not to trust anyone. Style 7 seems like a pretty safe bet. Beer 2006 is also very strong, but we literally have not seen anyone, like Style 7 can be tied, but we have not seen anyone higher than 7. Le Chiffre, Style 5. So is this the one where we do... Yeah, okay. That's 3 cards. Okay, yeah, I guess it's like we're playing a mini version of the game, but we play with 3 cards each or whatever. How high does 007's seduction rating need to be counted as dick powers? I mean, I feel like that's like a vaguely separate thing. But the scales that this game operate on for the different stats are pretty mysterious. I don't know if that's anything to do with the fact that Top Trumps... So Top Trumps is a physical card game, and it has like a million different licensed decks. I think we can actually we can do this just as an example. Here are some of them, including Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Marvel, animals, cars, dinosaurs, Roblox, etc. Kings and queens. So you buy this and it's like whatever. And for each of these, the actual specific stats that are here are like different. And maybe they have like, maybe they pick things that are supposed to be like on a relatively even scale, even if they're different. Like, I don't know. It's somewhat mysterious, I would say. So I'm not saying that I would suspect that the seduction rating has to align with seduction ratings of like supercars and football players, but like maybe what's the seduction stat in this deck would be, I don't know, some other stat like that's an equivalent, and that's why the scale is different. But I don't think there's an actual explanation for it. 226 is a high threat level, so let's go with that. Hopefully they don't have a mega villain. Yeah, Dr. No, Sean Connery Bond. So 1995 is a relatively late appearance date, but it's not as ironclad as... Actually, I guess at this point, do we know... No, we haven't seen... Oh, fuck it. Let's go Style 6. Yeah, it would seem to me based on my... Yeah, we lost because they had a... So now they're picking. Wait, did he pick? I get to pick even though it's their turn. I don't know. Yeah, this is a British thing. And I get the feeling like whenever I do a quick Google search, like all the results are for like eBay UK and like British stuff. So I'm not sure if this like exists at all outside of the UK. I've never seen or heard of it here. But if there's a DS game, I don't know. Again, I would have to assume that there were multiple of these mobile phone games, but obviously we're only interested in the Bond one. I'm not exactly sure why I'm picking or how this works, but Style of 7 is... Well, it's unbeatable, but it's tieable. But do I, like... Can't pick. Is there like some kind of bug? Can I make the game advance? Hit the pause button. Well, actually, let's... Okay. Let me read the rules here of head-to-head. Control the player picks a category. If it's higher than opponent's number, they regain control, pick a category from the next card. The loser has to discard their card. Only one player has cards remaining. They're proclaimed. Okay, so the cards are discarded. I have 2 cards, but I think we're stuck here because I have like 3 buttons, 2 of which typically do the same thing. And neither of them doing anything right now. The only button I can really... I mean, I can press up and down, and I can pause. Let's try again. Steal a peg. All right. Well, there are no pegs on the boards. Excuse me. No pegs to steal. You won 0 pegs. All right. Great. Their turn. I guess we're just hope to not land on head-to-head. Win 2 pegs. All right. Well, I would like that one, but okay. Now it's my turn. Shootout. Vicious, cruel, and sadistic. Rosa Klebb is Spectre's number 3. She takes delight in the mechanisms of an automated and authoritarian organization. She's assigned the role of retrieving a Lector decoder from Bond and destroying him with an unusual choice of footwear. But Tatiana Romanova, although hired by Klebb as a double agent, is now loyal to Bond. I see. I guess we just pick a number that seems high. I forget what this mode is, but I guess threat level... Well, Twisted 17 is high. Let's go with Twisted. Yeah, Dominic Green, Twisted 11. So I win. 1 a peg, okay. So shootout is literally just play a game. Okay. That's the most basic one. Win 2 pegs, dude. how do we compete with this? The rule set of this seems a little questionable. Alright, which game do I get to play? Oh, I get to play Win 2 Pegs. Sick. My favorite game. So I guess it's probably raised to 10 points. I'm just scared that we're going to land on head-to-head and the game's going to soft lock. Opponent playing. I get confused about who's me and who's... Like when the computer is playing and they're picking something, it seems like it's picking something and it says you, as in referring to the player who's making the choice, i.e. the computer player. Then it says opponent, but it's like, as it was referring to me. It's confusing as shit. Alright, so Lucky Dip is I get to pick here without seeing the number. But we know that he has a style of 6, right? I'm not really sure where the other ones land, but I think that's the safest bet. 226. He has a high threat level, but... we lost to fucking Game Spawn himself. Opponent. Was it their turn, but we picked a card? I'm confused. Was it my turn? But I did poorly, so they won a peg? Oh, fuck. Head to head. Well, I'm surprised at how confusing this manages to be honest, but, I'm gonna say style 6 seems like we've been dealt new cards, so statistically, if there exists like 30 cards, actually you can think of it that way, right? If 32 is the exact number of the main, like the entire deck, and there's what, 5 well, actually, is Pierce Brosnan in here? Have we seen him? I feel like Pierce Brosnan isn't in the game. I mean, he must be, right? So that's like 5 bonds, which means 5 out of 32 has a style rating of 7, if that's the case. That's a non-insignificant number, right? Whereas characters who appeared later than 95 would be like not as many, right? It's like Daniel Craig, Le Chiffre, Mr. White, Dominic Green. I guess that's about as many as there are bonds. There might have been one I forgot. Fuck it. Actually, no, shit. Well, okay. Oh, Mr. Went and Mr. Kid. We never saw that card. That's the first time we're seeing a card we didn't see before. Nick Knack kind of sucks. We didn't actually get to read his lore before. Butler, chef, and accomplice to Francisco Scaramanga, Nick Knack arranges for the world's top hitman to visit the man with the golden guns funhouse and never leave. He also helps in the sourcing and selling of the Solex agitator. When Scaramanga is defeated by 007, Nick Knack gives chase, but ends up a basket case. But yeah, he kind of sucks, right? Because he doesn't have any particularly noteworthy stats. I mean, Twisted 11 is like better than most good guys, I guess, but so is the threat level of 50. Brutality 24 is like not nothing, but it's like, yeah, it's higher than fucking Moneypenny and Q. Style 4 is like, I guess about as, I mean, it's like above average, kind of, but maybe we pick 50, like threat, and just hope that they have like a good guy card. Because if they have any kind of villain, it's like, even among henchmen, I think this is like a low number. Fuck it, let's do it. But if they win, I'm curious, like, what happens. Yeah, of course. Because I think they were supposed to play next, and like something just kind of glitched out. Yeah, see, now they actually, like, I think maybe I pressed an input and I like took control of their cursor and it made them not pick the card. I think maybe that's what happened. So I'm gonna be careful not to press anything. That's like just my guess, but because what happened last time was I had control while it was like it flashed on the screen like opponent's turn or something. Of course, I don't remember what cards are in play here. But because it's the same 3 cards. I played M previously, and they had like Wint and Kid or someone from like the 7. I think we're gonna go with this. Yeah, opponent. So I have 2 cards left, but they yeah, I was gonna say they can't have many cards left because we already won a few. All right, okay. We may have a method for overcoming the soft lock, which is don't mash. Well, we're gonna find out probably, because then we're playing head to head again. It is a little confusing because we still, like, the way it's visually presented, we don't have there's no like visual representation of, like, I have the counter on the top left of my cards, but I don't know if the opponent has cards or if I'm playing something again. Like, it's just a little bit lacking. I mean, it's obviously limited in its screen real estate and everything. They're doing about as well as they can, but it compared to actually playing this physically with cards, like, it can be a little confusing. But yeah, 2006, I guess style 7, the best we can do is tie, in which case, fuck, I forget how it works. I know that if we tie in this mode, we pick the next card, but I wonder if both players pick their next card, in which case that might be bad. But it's still, that's, well, the worst that can happen, I guess, because I could still tie. Oh yeah, if I picked appeared, we would have tied, actually. So that was a good one. 250 threat level, I think, is the highest we have seen out of everyone, so... Yeah, 240 for Trevelyan. Wonder if Wint and Kid flashed by super quickly at some point in that first game. Because it's literally the only card we've seen that I don't think we saw in the first game. So funny, like, we have this Felix Leiter, but none of the other, like, 5 Felix Leiters from the past. Whether chasing drug barons, KGB agents, or megalomaniacs, Felix Leiter has been one of 007's closest allies for many missions and is the CIA's top man. Leiter and Bond first meet in Montenegro and form a close alliance. Leiter offers Bond his stake in the poker game in exchange for the glory of bringing Le Chiffre to justice. Threat 0, Style 5, Seduction 15, Brutality 20, Twisted 2. I guess we gotta go first appearance. Oh, right, I forgot what we were even... we won a peg, I guess. But I don't... I was like, wait, what game are we even playing? So we predict that the next card will have a lower number. Correct. So we do get to check for like a third. Yeah, the threat level, like, is very strictly, it's got this kind of I guess it's like threat to the British Empire or something. Like, you know, it's very specifically every, you know, heroic character has a threat level of 0. You know, it's not threat to their immediate opposition. But yeah, I guess we bet that the next one's going to be high. Oh! Wrong! 1-1 peg. we unwon our second peg, I guess. Well, that's how it goes. Still catching up decently here. Oh my god. That's like his third win 2 pegs. I think they just won the game. Are they just repeating? Wait. Well, okay, we lost. All right, well, we're not going to give up. We're going to at least win one time each in the 2 modes. Selecting game for you. Oh my god. Same thing as last time. My first turn was steal a peg, and there was nothing to steal. Man, why couldn't I have gotten that last time? The opponent gonna win 2 pegs? No, not quite. Shootout. Opponent playing. See, it says you there, but that was not my card. Opponent, style 6. This is so confusing. They won. Yeah, okay. So they picked Gogol, but it says you. And then it says opponent played Scaramanga. And that was my card, because I was my opponent's opponent. But the game is so, like... Anyway, we won 2 pegs. So, okay, fine. The game has a very specific nomenclature for the 2 players, calling them you and opponent. But then they use the exact same terminology to describe this, like who's drawing what card. Oh, there is... Okay, yeah, we I guess we saw Brosnan Bond. They're using the same exact terminology, but in relative terms, to describe like whose turn it is in a specific like card duel, which is extremely weird. Anyway, yeah, I guess we did see all Bonds, whatever. Shootout 2008, the last movie. It feels so weird that for so many games now that Quantum of Solace has been like the latest movie. It makes sense, but it still feels strange. Because looking, I happen to have the spreadsheet open in another browser tab here. There was the Casino Royale phone game in 2006. Then there was the James Bond trivia game for phones in 2006. But then game number 38 was James Bond Top Agent, another Java phone game. Oh yeah, we won another 2 pegs. Cool. I'm just reading a spreadsheet. The game's winning pegs for us. But then we had 4 Quantum of Solace games. Actually, I guess like in that trivia game, Casino Royale would have been the most recent, but in Top Agent, if that even mattered, then Quantum of Solace, 4 games, the 2 GoldenEye games for Wii and DS, Bloodstone for 360 and DS, License to Drive, which I guess it didn't really play into it, but then this game, like this is a stretch of 10 games where Quantum of Solace has been the most recent Bond film. Someone won. I haven't interacted with the game for a while. Okay, I think there was their turn and they won 2 choices, and now I get to play when I have 1 card. So Pussy Galore is my only card to play here. All right. But yeah, so looking at the list, GoldenEye Reloaded was also 2011, and 007 Legends in 2012. I think so. The way that game is structured is that it has like 1 sort of episode per Bond actor, even though like I think it's always Daniel Craig Bond. It certainly doesn't have all the other actors' likenesses, but like from each actor's tenure, there's a sequence based on one of their films. So if memory serves, for Sean Connery, it's Goldfinger. I'm not sure about Roger Moore. But yeah, well, of course, there's the On Her Majesty's Secret Service for Lazenby. That's the one. And then it's License to Kill for Dalton. Probably GoldenEye for Brosnan. And I think maybe it is Skyfall for Craig. I don't know if it's like Moonraker or more, maybe. But in any case, there might be, like, Skyfall might be a thing in that game. But it's weird how, like, Daniel Craig's Bond tenure was such a weirdly sort of like Casino Royale was 06 and Quantum was 08, so they were pretty quick after each other, and there were still a bunch of games coming out then. But then there was like not even a tremendously long gap, but between 08 and 2012 there was like 10 Bond games, and then as soon as Craig started like cranking out films again, like the games had stopped coming out. So it just feels strange for just the way these sort of timelines overlap. Anyway, style of 6 seems like probably, well, Seduction 43 is pretty high. Of course I was not paying attention, so I have no idea what other cards they have. Let's go with Seduction 43. She's got to have one of the highest seduction stats, right? Yeah, see? Higher than Roger Moore. This is our only card to play, so we'll keep going with this. Yeah, if like Roger Moore is at 40, there's not going to be many other. Well, okay, we won anyway. All right. So yeah, that was the opponent's turn. So even on my turn, like only it's not only the player whose turn it is who can actually win pegs if we're playing a mode where we compete against each other, but high-low, I don't play against them. So the only thing that's at stake here is whether I win 1 or 2 or 0, I guess, pegs. So I select a category and then guess whether the next card will be higher or lower. The Brutality 53 is quite high. 73 is early, but not extremely early. Oh, did we? I don't think we. Yeah, we didn't read the lore for Teehee. Teehee, right-hand man to Dr. Kananga, a Caribbean heroin baron, lost his arm to an old crocodile named Albert. He has a metal claw in its place, which he uses to threaten, destroy, and torture his victims at the behest of Kananga. His claw proves no match for 007's bathroom cabinet when they battle upon a train. So I like that he's he uses his claw to threaten, destroy, and torture. Twisted 9. Threat 9. So we want to pick a stat that's like exceptionally high or low. So the threat level 9 is very low compared to all the villains, but like because all the good guys has threat 0, it's still not a very strong bet, I think. So picking brutality and guessing lower seems our best bet here. Next card I predict will be lower. Correct. It's weird that it tells me that it's correct before it shows us the result. Alright, so we're on the same stat here. We don't get to pick another stat. I'm gonna say that 41 is still a high number here. So I'm gonna guess lower. Wrong. Brutality 54. Pretty high stat, but we won 1 peg. Still doing pretty. We're win 2 pegs away from winning. But they can steal a peg. It's it's possible. Second game for you. Oh, win 2 pegs. What did I say? I think we have about the same luck that the computer had last time. I think we got 1-2 pegs maybe 3 times. It's so fucking funny that it flashes that screen like it's the computer player's turn again. And nope, never mind, you win. Like, we don't win at the end of my turn. We go to the beginning of their turn, and then the game's over. But yeah, there we have it. We won tournament mode. So, as expected, there isn't a lot to this. I'm sure this would have been probably different depending on what device you're playing on, but it doesn't seem like this version that I happen to have here has any option for Bluetooth multiplayer. But there would have been versions, or if you got this game for a compatible device, it would have had Bluetooth multiplayer support, which is kind of cool. But I feel like any scenario in which you would have like purchased this downloadable thing, have it on your compatible handset, even if the other player wouldn't have had to buy the game, I don't know how that would work. Like it's possible that it would have been kind of a DS download play kind of situation where you just transfer game data to their device or whatever. That seems unlikely, but even if we assume that to be the case, the situation in which you would find yourself with a phone that has this game, that has Bluetooth support, that has, and you have a friend who also has a compatible device and they're willing to go along with this, like, I feel like you would more likely have just bought like how much can a Top Trumps deck cost? Like a physical deck? Like £3? Like, I feel like you could just buy a set of cards and play. But it's still cool that it would have that feature. It's better than not having it. But as far as like what's in this game, I must have simply missed seeing Kid and Wint flash by in that first game, because that was the only time I saw a card that made me go, oh, I didn't think we saw that in the first game. But no, we've seen every card. So there are 32 cards in the game, and I feel like obviously you can't know what's in your opponent's pile before you've gone through the cards. But we've played this game for an hour, and I feel like we have not memorized every stat, but like gotten a decent idea. So you wouldn't really have to play this all that much to essentially memorize, significant swaths of the entire deck. Now, as I said, I think when you're playing the standard game, once you've gone through that first kind of loop, assuming there's a little bit of back and forth and you're not just like winning with a clean sweep, you're going to start circling back like to the first cards that were played. And at that point, you can kind of do a little bit of card counting and like think of what is in your opponent's deck and make predictions based on that. And that's like actual strategic depth beyond just pick a number, which I think is like kind of interesting. But because that's such a small part of the game that isn't necessarily even going to be something you encounter, I feel like this would play much better if there were like 200 cards. So there were like some kind of actual surprise. But whether that is an inherent aspect of the Top Trump format, like a physical card deck that you buy, I don't know how many cards are in them. A regular deck of cards is 52 cards. A Magic the Gathering deck is 60. There's no like set size of a card deck. If it's non-standard card deck, just go with 32 cards. Sure, why not? But I guess I would have expected it to be a slightly bigger pile. Maybe a physical Top Trumps deck is 100 cards, but because of size limitations in this mobile game, that this is all they could fit. Who knows? But setting aside that, I think it would have been nice to have had a feature that you could just like look through every card, even if it's just to like read the character lore. I guess I could understand why they wouldn't want to encourage memorizing all the stats, but it's like you're kind of gonna do that anyway. It would have been nice to have that feature. I think the gameplay for what it is, it's obviously extremely basic, but it kind of works like as a time waster, whatever. It's like more engaging than I maybe thought it would have been. I guess we can stop the timer. I guess we won. Was at like an hour and 1 or something, but whatever. I never expect there to be much to these Java phone games. I think a card game is something that like you could make something like the level of how compelling you can make it isn't necessarily going to be held back by being a Java phone game. A side-scrolling action game, a strategy game, a racing game, like those games are going to be kind of limited, if only because like you can only put so much art in it. There can only be so much assets. There can only be so many levels. There can only be so many characters, etc. But I mean, sure, there can only be so many cards in a game like this, but it's a little underwhelming because you would think that a card game, if we think of a game like Uno or, you know, just blackjack or whatever, something like that you could easily imagine translating into a Java phone format and be perfectly intact, and whatever you have, whatever feelings you have towards that game in its original form, it would still, you know, be the equivalent in this format. What's up, Goaty? Thank you very much for your Prime Horrors. 72 months is not nothing. I can't do math, but that sounds like it would be an even number of years. 6 plus 12, 60 plus 12 rather. Is that 6 years? I think you may have earned yourself a skull, maybe? I don't know how that works. It says here 72 months and you have a 5.5 year subscriber skull. I'm not sure if there's some kind of prime math there. Maybe you have paid for 72 months, but there's still a few days before it rolls over. Because I'm pretty sure there are... That's not the final badge. You're getting close. I think the Skeletor badges are above the alien badges. But I'm you know, people are catching up. I feel like for the first time in like 2 years, I gotta cook up some new badges, some new skulls. Yeah, at least we got the new Bones emote. We got some we got some skeletal representation in the animated emotes at least. I noticed I had a few unused slots, so I was like, fuck it. I had some animated emotes that I'd uploaded previously but never assigned to anything, and if I have open slots, I might as well just use them. So enjoy spooky holiday season with some animated Bones. But anyway, thank you very much, Cody, for the support. Anyway, Top Trumps as a card game is probably not the most compelling card game. Like I said, it seems to be designed to be extremely simple. It's probably played primarily by young children. There's a point to it not being complicated. I think that's a big part of the appeal of something like it's very easy to understand the business model of it, right? They license something, they print something, you know, parents will buy for their kids, and it's a cheap thing, and it's got these characters and things you like on them. It's simple enough to play that, like, you know, a 4-year-old can play it. So it stands to reason that a digital version of that is not gonna be more compelling or more engaging or more complex or more deep. But, you know, it's a little bit of a shame, like, whether how much of it is like part of the card game design and how much of it is like in the digital translation. I think either end could have had more put into it to make for something that's more exciting. I still think that this is annoying. It's not an annoying or frustrating game. The music plays during gameplay. You know, that's more than we get from some mobile games. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's a bad game. It's just like there isn't much to it at all. And I think that's a shame, because I think this game sort of secretly had the potential to be a pretty strong game. Like, I even think, like, for all its faults, like, I still had fun with it. I think it's just sort of, I don't feel like super compelled to play another round. Like, I could have seen myself having an okay time with this as like a literal time waster, just waiting for the bus at a bus stop or whatever. But I probably wouldn't prefer to play this over like Snake, you know, because of the kind of repetitive nature, and because it's like extremely luck based too. The novelty just wears off pretty quickly, and it's a shame, I guess, that there wasn't like a more advanced mode akin to the tournament mode, or even part of the tournament mode, that could have added enough sort of twists to it to make it a little bit more engaging. But ultimately, I think the biggest failing of the game is that the number of cards is just drastically lower than it kind of needs to be for this to be something that kind of works. But I mean, I guess the idea probably, as far as like assuming that the physical card decks are also 32 cards or something similar, I think it's probably part of the concept that you're supposed to kind of get a bit tired of it and get a new deck of cards. Like, I have to imagine, like, again, we can for those who didn't see it, these are examples of like actual top trumps card decks, and they come in these like colorful plastic containers that I guess are like very kind of kid and travel friendly. So I mean, it's not all kid stuff. There's Breaking Bad, but there's also Minions and a bunch of animal stuff and, like, you know, stuff they don't have to license. But you gotta imagine that, like, you get one of these for like a weekend trip and then you're bored of it, and then you can get a new one of these and they're probably like a few pounds, right? Like, they can't be expensive at all. So I think they're designed to be pretty disposable. And in that context, it makes sense that they're not meant to be one little thing that you can play forever. But for a mobile phone game, even like this, you have played essentially each of the two modes once or 1.5 times and go, yeah, I feel like there isn't much more to discover or do here. And repeated play is not going to keep my attention for too long. Like, that's not ideal. But yeah, there you have it. Top trumps, 007, the best of Bond. I don't think there's much more to say. So let's exit game. Next to media. Oh, there we go. Exit. And let's do a little bit of bookkeeping. Let's get some other. As enjoyable as that music was for being music in a phone game, let's get some other jams going. Vaguely in the background, not to be too distracting. And let's do a little bit of bookkeeping. Let's do a little bit of spreadsheeting. Bear with me for a moment as I get things organized. Let's see. Yep, this looks correct. Put that on screen here. And let's zoom in. Top trumps, 007, the best of Bond. Is, well, mission completed, I guess. We'll note down the time as written, even though technically it actually was slightly shorter. We didn't get to read the lore on every single card, but the luck required to make sure that we get to have each card there to even see it is not something I want to bother with. So I would have happily read every card we got a chance to read, but I'm not gonna grind to get to read the last like 5 cards that we didn't get to read. One game each in classic mode and tournament mode. And that means we can unbold this, we can green this, and we can now mark mark up next for GoldenEye 007 Reloaded. And as you can see, we're getting very close here. 007 Legends is the final game after that. We also have the 7th bonus game of 007 for Xbox Live Arcade. Most likely, as we said before, what we're gonna do, what we're looking at most likely, is that we're gonna forge ahead and complete 007 GoldenEye 007 Reloaded and 007 Legends, and then play. I mean, we haven't unlocked it yet, but even if we unlock it before we even get to start GoldenEye Reloaded, I think we will schedule the GoldenEye remake, the Xbox Live Arcade. And this gets a little confusing, but the Xbox Live Arcade GoldenEye remake after 007 Legends, so that we can have all the games completed, and we can do the GoldenEye remake kind of concurrently with doing the catching up with the film, so doing the research and everything required for the final ultimate bond quotient rating and full ranking of games and everything. And we'll see. Like, the original N64 GoldenEye took like 20 something hours. Now I think I can complete. I'm curious just to see what it was. Let's see here. I can't believe how early this was. Game number 17 was 19 and a half hours. Given that we will have a better frame rate, better controls, and more importantly, I will be more familiar with the game, I reckon we will finish it notably faster. But it's still going to be like a several stream game. So we'll see how exactly that will be scheduled. The other thing that we have to contend with is the upcoming Prince of Persia port exploration thing that we're going to be doing. And I talked about it at the beginning of the stream, but for those who weren't here, I'm doing the prep work to set all that up, but I'm hesitant to try to do that. Like, I want to avoid derailing Games Bond too much with that project, as that project is now beginning to kind of balloon a little bit in scope compared to what I had originally intended. But at this point, I kind of would rather want to do it properly. So we're definitely, at the very least, I think I will want to finish games 49 and 50 before we do Prince of Persia. But we might end up doing them kind of concurrently, doing Prince of Persia as like a weekly, like once a week thing, parallel with everything else. I'm not exactly sure, but the pieces of the puzzle basically are these two remaining games, the GoldenEye remake, whenever that gets unlocked, the Prince of Persia project, and ideally, well, and the ultimate James Bond finale. And I would ideally want to have all of those things done before, with some margin, 007 First Light, which comes out at the end of March. So Prince of Persia, like, it would be nice to have all of the Bond stuff just completely handled by the end of the year, and then we can dedicate the first quarter of next year to Prince of Persia, however long that'll take. But as you can tell, like, it's a little bit of puzzling to do to figure everything out. Regardless, we are close to the end here. There's not much left. Games of Persia. Yeah, I mean, we're not, to be clear, we're playing ports and versions of the original Prince of Persia. I mean, I would love to do a fully exhaustive Prince of Persia full series exploration, but that's a significantly larger commitment. And the Prince of Persia thing, as conceived when I first set the sub goal for my birthday stream, was doing like 4 versions, maybe, like not being exhaustive at all. Like, hey, I just want to look at a few of these versions that I never played before, and maybe 1 or 2 that I have just because I like them or kind of want to revisit them. But now, like, the more I'm planning for it, the more I kind of feel compelled to do it properly and doing all the versions I can play. And as of now, I'm still in the planning phase, but the game list, the potential game list for that is at 24 or 25 games. There's a lot of versions of that game, so you know, that's not something I'm gonna do in like 2 or 3 streams. It's gonna be potentially a pretty large thing, which is why I'm like now feeling like, oh my god, I need to make sure that I'm not starting that like right as we're kind of on the cusp of finishing this. I want to kind of finish this first. But as is typically, like, whenever I do one of these large scale things, we did the Batman project over like 2 years and change. This has been 3 years. I need a little bit of a break. I like having these large scale projects, but whenever I'm done or close to done with them, I always feel like such a tremendous sense of relief of like, the freedom of doing whatever I want and not having this, like, being beholden to this thing. So I've done smaller scale things in parallel, like we did the Double Dragon and Final Fight series kind of retrospectives, and the Prince of Persia thing is actually kind of analogous to those. But that's why I'm a little like, man, I'm what am I what position am I putting myself in, like trying to do these kind of simultaneously. But still, Prince of Persia, I know it's going to be fucking sick. It's an awesome game. And even in the games that are bad, even the versions that are bad, like, it's baked into the format that we don't have to commit more than 1 hour to each of them, right? Because I don't... some of them I will want to finish. And I'm committing to finishing the Super Nintendo one. That was another sub-goal. But for all the other ones, I just want to see what they're like. And I know some versions are so fucking bad that it would be nightmarish to try to complete them. But because Prince of Persia has a hard time limit, that provides the perfect framework to just say, well, we'll play every version on like we'll do one playthrough or one attempt, one session, and either we time over, we play an hour and we lose, or we reach the end of the game and we complete it. The Super Nintendo one is a very special case because it's a totally different game, but all the other ones essentially, mostly anyway, have like the same levels and the same structure. So doing that will still allow us to get a good sense of what each of them are. But yeah, you know, even if we imagine that there isn't like an hour of fluff side stuff for every hour of play, that would still be 20 something hours, because, you know, some of them I will finish no problem, and I'll finish it in less than an hour. But yeah, even if we were to be extremely generous and say that it's like 16 hours of gameplay, that's still, you know, realistically that would still be 5 or 6 streams probably. But that's you know, that's optimistic, because I think the Super Nintendo game itself could easily be 3 streams. Not more, because that game's long and I want to do it. So the thing I'm committing to with the Super Nintendo Prince of Persia is beating the game in one sitting. And I've completed the game before, but not without using passwords. So I think what I will want to do is like doing one playthrough with like using passwords to kind of scum the timer, and then doing a little bit of individual level practice before doing like proper attempts. But even when I reach the point where I'm confident enough to do attempts, like one attempt is 2 hours. So at best, I could realistically hope to do 2 attempts in one stream. And even that's like not on a weeknight stream. Once I'm that confident, I don't think it would take that many attempts. But let's say it's still like 4 attempts. That's that's like 8 hours. So yeah, that could balloon quite a bit in and of itself. But it's something I'm super excited to do. So I look forward to it. But it's just a matter of planning it. Top trumps will rank near the top when we sort by presence of Moneypenny. Well, it'll be tied first, I guess, with a handful of games. But you are indeed correct that Moneypenny is a rare presence. And we will chart that, of course, with the Bond quotient. Now, this game will most likely not score very well in general, but it'll be interesting to see what we can, what rare aspects we actually can add to the tally here. So, in case you're unfamiliar, this is my scientific method to calculate and determine what is not the best James Bond video game, but what is the most James Bond video game. And we do that by charting the presence of elements that are present in Bond films. This is an ongoing, evolving field of science. So everything is not set in stone yet, but the basic principle is that we've listed a lot of things here, 30-something things. that I have deemed typically present in Bond films. The science has not yet been done to determine exactly how present each of these things are in the films. That science will be done over the course of this winter. And based on those results, we will weigh these categories to not be equally meaningful, because something that is more present in the film should reward a higher Bond quotient than something that only appears in a few films. But as of now, we get the so-called raw Bond quotient for how many points each game scores here. And the basic range here is from 0 to 1. It's typically a binary. You get a point for having a thing, and you get 0 points for not having it. But as we've seen, there are plenty of edge cases where things are kind of present in letter but not in spirit, or the other way around. There have been cases of things that are like sort of kind of there, and we want to give partial credit, but it doesn't quite deserve a full point. It's not an exact science. I'm doing the best I can, but we kind of try to judge things as fairly and accurately as we can. The yellow cells in the spreadsheet, for the record, are for things where I'm a little bit unsure if this is quite accurate, and I need to double check the tapes to make a final assessment. So it's just kind of a note to self to just remind myself to double check, in case you were curious. But let's get through it. So we saw several Bonds wearing tuxedos, so I think we can fairly give points for that. Change of clothes doesn't, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff here that like kind of doesn't really apply, but as we mostly in these games follow James Bond, for an adventure of sorts, it's a matter of like whether he has multiple fashionable outfits over the course of the game. We had like a style rating, but we didn't really like the concept of changing between outfits was not present. So I think it's reasonable that we just get a flat 0 here. Rarely, this is a Bond experience that had neither gunplay nor fisticuffs. We didn't get to read the profile of Q, which is probably about the closest we would have had to gadgets. But if you think about it, a card game where we have like cards for Bond stuff. Now, granted, I guess you would be hard pressed to give a style or seduction value to like, the smoke screen coming out of the Aston Martin, or Bond's like grappling hook, whatever. But I feel like there could have been some way to squeeze in Bond gadgets, and I don't think we really saw any presence whatsoever. There was in fact neither driving nor cars. I guess again, like it's a little bit limited in the format of each card representing a character, and I guess that's sort of down to the way the stats are designed, because you want to have like universal stats that can be applied to every card. And if a card can be either a character or an inanimate object, maybe that's too limiting, but it is what it is. Like, we can't judge this by how we would have wanted it to be. We simply have to accept that this game does not really depict Bond's, prowess as a skilled driver or pilot or anything else. I don't know if technically there may have been a description in a card that we didn't get to read that would have mentioned something about driving, but I'm pretty sure we got to look at every Bond card, or at least like 4 out of the 5, and they didn't really. I think those are like the best bet that we would have of some kind of mention of that kind of thing. So I feel pretty confident. I mean, even that would be, it wouldn't be a 1, right? It would be like a 0.25 or something. So I think a 0 there is reasonable. No car gadgets. I think this is a game, this category of charm / smarm has been a little bit of a thorn in my side, because I'm not overly fond of how it's named, or like, I think it's a bit ambiguous or vague in what it's trying to express, but it's essentially to do with the the sort of tone of writing, or like primarily of Bond as a character, but sometimes that vibe gets expressed through, for instance, narration, or just this kind of there's a word I'm looking for that I can never find when I try to explain this, but either way, this game I don't think had it, because there was no, like, License to Drive got a half point because there was some dialogue in which there was like this kind of banter. It was very poorly written banter that was not representative of how it's written in the films. But when you have this like a little bit of banter between M and Bond, for example, like that would be a good example of when we can see this expressed. And even then, like it can be in M's writing rather than Bond's. But there was no, this game did not really have any writing that is like within the world of the fiction, right? It's just like kind of dry descriptions of characters and events. So I think it's fair to say that it didn't kind of carry through the Bond like feel in that sense. It would be maybe difficult for a card game to do so, but it's a card game. It is what it is. You know, whether it's a failing of the game or not doesn't really matter. That's not part of the science. We just have to chart whether it's present or not. I saw no evidence of any kind of drinking being depicted. Is it possible that someone's preferred drink was mentioned in a profile? I don't know. It's possible, but I think even that would be an extreme stretch. No stunts to speak of. I'm updating the stats here, but for some reason, let me refresh the browser thing here. Oh, there we go. Okay, it woke up there. Gambling, not really. Globetrotting, not really either. Like there's nothing about, like, locations could have been a thing. I mean, it mentions where things happen, but that's not really, I don't think that's in the spirit of what this is. Again, these are aspects that will be difficult to capture in a top Trumps game. But such is life. Now, because this game doesn't really depict a mission, it makes sense that there is no M briefing. But it's interesting when you look at these upcoming categories, right? Because there's no Q briefing. Q branch as a location or concept is, well, you know, that could have been mentioned in Q's card. We didn't get to read it, but obviously there's no location depicted because the game is like a fully abstract thing. But Moneypenny is there. Like, there's no way we don't get to give this game credit for Moneypenny being present. She has equal, I mean, I guess she doesn't have equal representation with James Bond because there's like 5 James Bond cards. But there's James Bond, there's Q, there's Moneypenny, there's M, there's, you know, Blofeld, there's Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, there's Knick-Knack, there's Tee-Hee, there's Jaws. Like, it has this lineup of characters, and she is one of the characters that's depicted. So she's there, same as anyone else. But because of the way these categories have been named or defined, they're not necessarily describing the presence of M as a character or Q as a character in the same simple way as the Moneypenny categories. I just find it interesting and funny how, like, it doesn't seem quite right to give this game no credit for M or Q presence, because, I mean, we've had games where Q has no presence whatsoever. It's very rare to have a game where Q as a character is present, but we don't feel quite, or M for that matter, where M or Q is present as a character, but their presence is not in the service of giving a briefing. Because that is typically their entire role, right? If you were to go through the effort of having M be in a Bond game, she or he, depending on the version, would be there for the purposes of providing a mission briefing. So I'm like, it's hard to say, because, like, even in the films, that would be true as well. So I guess maybe that's the way we could look at it, whereas, like, are there films where M is present beyond like giving a briefing. Like Q has in trying to remember, is it License to Kill? I think so, where he has a pretty big role. He's like in the field and everything. But obviously, you know, he brings the gadgets and he explains them and everything. So there's like a bit of a Q briefing there. I forget exactly kind of how the character is used in the Daniel Craig ones, but it's possible that you could look at it that way. But ultimately, there's a difference. Like Moneypenny, like the equivalent would be if we put like Moneypenny flirting or something. But it's like, I don't want to raise that bar higher because it's so rare to even have her character present at all. But this just makes me think of like, should there be categories for like the presence, the simple presence of certain characters? Like maybe M present and M briefing are like two different things. And you know, we've given games points for M briefing without the character of M being present, because it's more about the mission briefing kind of thing. You know, we've had what's his name? Shit, I can't forget. Like Kenner or something. Like he, the guy who was in the License to Drive game. He's like sort of the equivalent to Colin Salmon from the Pierce Brosnan movies. Giving like briefings in License to Drive, and I think maybe in Quantum of Solace and stuff too. Where it would make more sense to have like one column for the presence of the character M and one column for like mission briefing, and you could have like Q being present versus like gadget briefing as two separate things. In which case, obviously, we would give credit for M and Q being present, but not for the briefing element. And hypothetically, you could maybe want to chart like Felix Leiter, because he's in quite a few films. But I don't know, like he's in I remember he was in the Quantum of Solace PS game. I reckon he might have been in the other games, or one of them at least. But I don't think he's been in many games, and he's not like, he's a recurring character in the films, but he's not in that many films for it to be like a super recurring thing. But I mean, I think after M and Q in Moneypenny, he's probably not far behind. Well, after Bond, obviously. But like Blofeld's in a couple of movies, and Leiter's probably in more of them. But the thing is, like outside of the Daniel Craig version, I do not know. Like I'm hesitant to add these categories because it's like, fuck, this might be this might be a lot of rechecking tapes here. I honestly, I would rather, like, it would be best to add it now and then decide to not count it later, than decide later that I should have included it now. Because it's gonna be, I don't know, I think it's gonna be relatively straightforward to some degree. I'm gonna add it now, and we'll see if this sticks around or not. I don't want to have to do a mental note of trying to check and decide later if I want to add them or not. So we're gonna do this. So we're just gonna put M, and we're gonna add a column for Q. We're gonna do this, and we'll add a column for Felix Leiter. And we're gonna basically do this. We're gonna make this yellow, means I'll need to check this for every game. But I'll change mission brief or M briefing to mission briefing. And I'll change Q briefing, gadget briefing. Because that's essentially what we have been. If there's been a gadget briefing, we have given credit under Q briefing. Whereas Q branch is more specifically about the location and concept of like the Q branch lab. This might complicate things, but it does also make things more like straightforward. Now, we gotta make sure that the formula here is correct. Yeah, it looks like it. That we didn't break anything for the calculations by adding columns, but it looks correct. Technically, this means that a lot of games will have points added because they obviously mission briefings that feature the character M will get an additional point for having the character M, whereas I think what will happen is that a lot of games that had mission briefings not by M will maybe have in some cases here I can see there's like half points, so they might get these half points increased to a full point. Same with gadget briefings, which may be increased to a full point. But conversely, they might have a 0 point for no presence of Q. So I think this is ultimately a change for the better. The science is becoming more exact. As I said, this is an evolving field of science. Things happen, things change. Our current perceptions are challenged, and we develop new scientific methods for more accurate assessment of the reality in which we live. That's the scientific method in a nutshell. So, with that scientific evolving over and done with, we can now confirm that we can give 1 point for M being present, no points for any mission briefings. To be clear, mission briefing, like, there's a tutorial that explains how to play the game, but it's A, not within the fiction of the world, and B, not styled after like a M style mission briefing. Like, I could have given it points if it was done that way, but it wasn't, so it doesn't count. Q is present, but there's no gadget briefings. No Q branch, but there is a money penny, and there was in fact a Felix Leiter. I think, you know, we're still being fair. Every game gets an opportunity to get credit for Felix Leiter being present, but I'm glad that we're adding this as a way for this game to kind of catch up in a sense of like, you know, this had Felix Leiter in it. Not many games did, so I'm happy to be able to give this game credit for that. The phrase Bond, James Bond did seemingly not appear anywhere. Bond theme did not play. As happy as I may have been for having actual sustained background music, whatever that music was not the James Bond theme, and it was not anything that we can reasonably refer to as a Bond style theme song. Now, the gun barrel is depicted on the title screen of the game, which is what we're looking at right there. Obviously, the game didn't have a box, so for cover art, we're just using like the title screen. And I think that qualifies under this like 0.25 level, where the imagery of the gun barrel sequence is acknowledged, but it's not really presented neither in its entirety or the same like context or it's just kind of an allusion to the concept of the gun barrel sequence and the imagery of it rather than being the actual gun barrel sequence. What's up, Triple Topper? I'm not entirely sure if we played the ColecoVision version of James Bond 007. That was in fact game number 1. I was going to say all the way back in 1983. It came out in 1983. We didn't play it on stream in 1983. But it feels like we might as well have, because we played it in October of 2022. And not only is that long ago enough that I don't remember exactly which versions we played. We played a couple of different versions. But this concept of the Bond quotient did not yet exist. This field of science was pioneered at some point in the middle of this project happening. So for a lot of the early games, I had to kind of go back and fill in the blanks retroactively. And even that was quite a long time ago at this point. So that game has a raw bond quotient of 4.5 currently, which is a very low number. There have been categories added over the course of this where, you know, we might actually be able to give it a few more points. But, you know, any games that are sufficiently simple, you know, they're going to have a hard time keeping up with some of the higher ranking games. But yeah, so that game was originally on Atari 2600. I'm assuming that's the game we're talking about because that's the only game I reckon would have had a ColecoVision version. I know that we played the Atari 2600 version. I know that we played the Sega SG-1000 version because that's the one I was able to actually finish. But I think we may have also played... if there was a Commodore 64 version, we probably did play that, but I don't remember if that was the case. I think we played at least three versions, but I cannot be quite sure. I know we played the 2600 version, I know we played the SG-1000 version, but I don't know what other versions we may have played. Actually, I guess I probably have that. You can probably look that up. Yeah, okay. So my hunch was correct that we played the C64 version. Yeah, so it was also on the 5200, the Atari 400, and ColecoVision. We did not play those versions. There you have it. Spreadsheets, once again, proving ever valuable. Anyway, where were we? Opening credits. I remarked on the fact that this game actually had credits. There's a, like, you can see who worked on it. But we're not giving credits or giving credit. Specifically, it's more about having a Bond-style opening credits sequence, which this game most certainly did not. I'm pretty sure there was no product placement, except if you want to count Top Trumps, but I don't think that... I guess it wouldn't qualify as product placement anyway. This is more about Aston Martins and Bollinger and Sony Ericsson phones and what have you. Bond in Peril was not really a thing. Bond likeness, we had multiple Bond likenesses. Actually, it's kind of rare. We've had it in, I guess we don't really count it, but we had like the bonus games here. We had like the yeah, they're kind of some of them are added here, but I haven't been ranking them. We did like the dossier multimedia CD-ROM thing that was more like of a lexicon kind of thing. And this is like sort of like that. Maybe there might have been some of the trivia stuff we did, but yeah, even just having the different Bond actors depicted is like kind of a neat thing. But this is like a weird thing. Obviously, this won't compare properly to the films, so it's more like just of a small, interesting thing to see how some games might have scored really highly in a lot of ways, despite not having, like, I think for me, the reason I wanted to include it originally, before I even had the idea to weigh this based on the presence in the films, was to kind of determine that you can have a game like, for example, the Game Boy game, which is an awesome game and is an extremely James Bond game and has like a lot of points for a lot of stuff, but it does not feature the likeness of an individual Bond actor. And I mean, the new game, First Light, would also not get points here because it doesn't feature the likeness of an existing Bond film actor. Like, but I don't think that's an important thing at all. But it's just interesting to chart. So Sexy Ladies is an interesting one because I was shocked, frankly, at like, I mean, with 32 cards, there's only so many characters you can include. But you would imagine that there's a whole swath of like these Bond girls, some of whom are, I reckon, like relatively sort of iconic characters. But I guess like Pussy Galore and Onatop were the only ones included, really. And even then, those characters are, I mean, they're essentially henchmen. I feel like they were more there, you know, representative of henchmen as a category of character than anything else. But that doesn't, I mean, being a henchman doesn't disqualify you from also being a sexy lady. So, I mean, that's fair enough. But that was surprising to me. That they didn't have more characters in kind of that category present. Could have used more Bond girls, fewer Zukovskis. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, you have Mr. Kidd and Mr. Wint. But you didn't have, what's her name? Bambi and whatever, like the two like acrobat assassin girls. And I was about to say who were like right out of Cobra, but I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. Yeah, the choice of cards, it's like every single, like, you know, Knick-Knack and Tee-Hee and like all these henchmen, like these are all like, of course they should be there, but you had like multiple, like, I guess Tee-Hee and Samedi both refer to Dr. Kananga, but Kananga himself was not there. Like, it's weird trying to cover like every Bond film from Dr. No to Quantum of Solace in 32 characters, 5 of whom are James Bond. You know, there's gonna be omissions. But yeah, on account of Xenia Onatopp being there, we have to give credit for sexy ladies, evil being present. Now, Dick Powers, I don't think, like, as we know them to exist, the wielding of Dick Powers was not depicted per se, but Bond's like unchecked libido and its supernatural powers, I think we have to acknowledge that component, that aspect of the James Bond, you know, worldview and existence, is present in the form of seduction being one of the stats used. Like, Pussy Galore may have had the highest stat of anyone. Like, seduction and Dick Powers aren't the same thing, but I feel like the choice of having that as one of your core stats, like the stats themselves are so funny. There's like twisted and the style and the weird scales. I don't know. Quantify Dick Powers rather than demonstrate it. Now, I'm not sure I would entirely agree with that either, because I think Dick Powers exist on a plane sort of separate from seduction. I mean, you could say that they are used for a form of seduction, sure. Undoubtedly. It's like the presence of Dick Powers would manifest as a high seduction stat, but a high seduction stat is not the evidence of the presence of Dick Powers, if that makes sense. But I think we can sort of reasonably accept, or posit at least, that the choice to include seduction as a core stat is an indication of the creators of this game considering that aspect to be core to the character of Bond and to like the depiction of the Bond universe. So it's definitely not a full point, but I think we can give it. It's a unique situation because we could argue that the numeric quantification of Bond's seduction stat is as close as we're getting to a game acknowledging, you know, sort of not depicting the wielding of or usage of Dick Powers, but more so the presence of them in a sort of a theoretical sense. But regardless, I think this is it's more of a meta kind of thing at this point, like, because no matter how we spin it, this category is ultimately more about the depiction of it. I mean, it's kind of similar to, we could have had the text describe Bond being a great driver, but that wouldn't be the same thing as seeing Bond drive a car. But I think in the spirit of rewarding this game for as limited as it is, what it chooses to include, I think we can give this a half point. Well, there were definitely both henchmen and villains included. We cannot really reasonably give points for layers or speeches. The game had a credits screen where, if they were so inclined, they could have put the words "James Bond will return." Alas, they did not. The No Bond category is a very special category where I think a total of 2 games have received 1 negative point for not featuring the character of James Bond at all in the game. We don't have that problem with this game because we featured 5 James Bonds, which is more than most. But that's just to explain this category that may seem a little confusing. So that gives us a sum total of 10.75. Pretty impressive, honestly. Now, granted, this is a little skewed because this is now the only game in the entire lineup that has the updated MQ briefing situation. And it's not that this game scores higher than other games are likely to, but more so that we have not given the other 47 games a chance to catch up to this updated scoring method, because many games will be getting 1 if not 2 extra full points because of these new additions. But that will create a wider range of possible scores and a more accurate assessment in the end. Because even if, in the films, of course, any film that has M will likely also feature a mission briefing. Any film that features Q will likely have a gadget briefing of some sort, although not necessarily. It'll be interesting to see. But regardless, it does mean that our tracking of this data will be more accurate. There will be less edge cases and kind of interpreting things. The more kind of strict the definitions are and the less room we leave for an open interpretation, the more exact and reliable we can take the science to be. Again, though, this is not the final score. This is simply the raw Bond quotient. Every category's worth and value will be weighted based on how prevalent each of them are in the films. So once we've played and rated every game in this way, we will determine how to weigh these stats based on the films. And based on that, in turn, we will create an updated, more accurate final Bond quotient for every game. And I'm very excited about that. It's going to be so fun to see how the ratings will shift. We have one final thing to do, and that is to update the tier list. Bear with me for a minute as I get that ready on screen for you fine folks. So let's bring this page up and I will get it ready for you guys momentarily. Mix this list. And let me configure my capture. That looks correct. And boom, there we go. So this is our tier list as it looked from the most recent update. If you want to get a closer look at this, you can head to my Discord in the Games Bond channel. Whenever I update the tier list, I always post a link to the new tier list. And there's only 3 of the games left here. It's man. So I think this game was pretty underwhelming in a lot of ways, but it was also not terrible. It was like fun, but the novelty wore off pretty quickly. I already kind of had a hunch where I would want to place it based on that, and that is bearing out splendidly looking at what's on here. And that's right up here alongside James Bond Trivia and License to Drive, a few other phone games. We've had phone games rank higher, like Casino Royale in B tier and Quantum of Solace in A tier, for being more exciting adventures with cool stuff. The C tier definition, I mean, none of the tiers have one firm, strict definition, but what tends to define the games that end up here are that they are not bad, but very unremarkable. Even games as high as A or S tier can have real frustrations. Like Nightfire for Xbox is an awesome game, but some of the driving levels are fucking a nightmare. There's parts of that game that like suck and they're terrible. GoldenEye on the N64 I found to be a tremendously frustrating experience, but it was also a cool game that had a lot of fun stuff in it. So being ranked highly doesn't necessarily mean that there's an absence of frustrating or annoying elements. But obviously those games that are ranked this highly have a lot of things in them that are, you know, very high highs, even if some of the lows are pretty low too. And in C tier, we get games that don't really have very low lows necessarily, but they don't have high highs either. They're just like flat lines. Because I think even B tier games, we get more of that curve where, like, looking at this list, I think more of the games in B tier have a bunch of annoying shit than anything in C tier, but they make up for it for having exciting, cool things as well. Whereas the C tier games are completely like, there's not much game there. And anything that's lower than that, like D tier, is stuff that's like, yeah, there's not that much game there, and also what's there is kind of annoying. Or in some cases, yeah, there's a decent chunk of game, but it's very annoying. And then F tier is stuff that's like basically unplayable, or just like thinking about the game makes me quite mad. And there's nothing, like, I have no negative feelings towards Top Trumps 007, The Best of Bond. It's just I don't particularly have feelings towards it at all. And as such, I think all of the games in B tier I do have feelings towards. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't rise to that level. But the games in D tier I feel like I dislike. Even if some of them have things about them that are kind of neat here and there, I broadly dislike them. And yeah, anything that doesn't, you know, it's too good to be in D tier and it's not good enough to be in B tier, well, that's a C tier game. So there you have it. 2 more games to rank. GoldenEye Reloaded for PS3 and 007 Legends for Xbox 360. I'm so excited to play that game. It's going to be such a breath of fresh air. It's going to be such a different experience. A lot of these 3D console Bond games have been like pretty samey for a while, even if some of them have been good. Like Bloodstone was sick. That was an awesome game, even if it just ended way too abruptly. But whether they're first person, third person, like, I don't know. I think my impression anyway of 007 Legends, like, structure and concept means that it's like focusing on like these key moments and set pieces and like recreating these moments from the films, and I think that's going to be cool to see. But we have a whole other GoldenEye to get through first, so that's going to be up next. Mission 49 will be GoldenEye Reloaded for PS3. It's gonna be very similar to the Wii game, but apparently, you know, supposedly all new graphics. an extensive overhaul to the game's multiplayer modes is maybe of limited importance or interest to us. But it does have an all-new single-player mode as well. So we're definitely going to have to check that out. It's some kind of mission mode. Hopefully it's not like fully online based so that we can't even play it, but we'll find out together, I guess. This game does, to my knowledge, have move support, but obviously that would kind of recreate the experience we already had with the Wii game, so that would be kind of counterproductive. So we will play this not with waggle controls. Now, exactly what controller I will be playing on is a little bit of an open question, but I will do some research and prep work and get ready for GoldenEye Reloaded in the not too distant future. Like I said, I think we're kind of leaning towards trying to get through the last bits of James Bond here, so that we can make room for the Xbox Live GoldenEye remake, so that we can make room for Prince of Persia, so that we can have everything done and dusted with Bond quotient, ratings, film rewatches, etc. well ahead of 007 First Light releasing in March of 2026. This will be it for me tonight. This was fun. I hope this ranks in the top 500 of licensed mobile phone card game streams that you have watched. As far as the ones I have hosted, I think this one was pretty all right. I had a good time. We got some spreadsheet action as well. I'm never going to complain about that. I'm a little bit unsure. There will not be any super Halloween theme stuff going on, I don't think. But I may do a stream towards the end of the week to possibly check out the new Mortal Kombat collection, which I believe drops tomorrow. We'll see. But I think there's a good chance that we will check that out on Friday. If not, then maybe Saturday. I'm gonna want to check that out, and we might as well do that on stream. I don't really have a lot of other plans, and I'll need to do a little bit of science and research and prep work before we can get to GoldenEye Reloaded. But I will figure that out, and we shall most likely get that started early November, so within the next week or two. So look forward to that. But as we wrap things up, let's find out who is streaming that we might raid. Let's see what is happening. Who may we want to suggested collabs? No, thank you, Twitch. See if we can figure this out. As usual, I would try to see if there's someone who isn't the same two people I always raid, but not a requirement. I happen to raid the same 2 or 3 people because they're cool people. They stream interesting stuff, but let's just do a little bit of research here. Well, you know what? I think we're gonna have to go back to a tried and true stream, and that is one Mr. Bill Bull, who's playing what appears to be inscrutable Atari ST text adventuring. Always new and exciting inscrutable adventures over at Bill Bull's. So let's go check that out. Let's go say hi and have a good night. Easily the best Top Trump streams you have ever watched. Well, I'm happy to deliver on such a prestigious quantification and qualification. Anyway, I'm losing my ability to speak coherently, and I think that's my cue to sign off. Thanks a lot again for hanging out. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you guys maybe Friday, I guess. I'll see you whenever I stream next anyway. Till then, thank you a lot for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Take care, and goodbye.